Hey, hello everyone. It looks like we started that with the Tech Talk swoosh, but this is the VictoriaMetrics virtual meetup. I'm Mark Sherwood from the marketing team, and we'd like to welcome everybody to today's virtual meetup. We've got quite a stacked schedule today, so we're going to be going through some updates on what's new across VictoriaMetrics. We've got a guest speaker who's coming in today to talk about his experience finding, deploying, and using VictoriaMetrics and VictoriaLogs. And then we're going to be moving into a couple of internal sessions where we'll have our folks talking about our cloud and anomaly detection program. We'll be looking at more of the roadmap of VictoriaLogs and opening it up to a question and answer. So, hey, maybe everybody on the line, if you want to do a quick introduction to who you are, it might be nice.
Sure, I'll start. I'm Matthias Palmersheim. I'm in Iowa in the US, and I'll be talking about some of the new features in anomaly detection today. Mark, do you want to introduce yourself?
No. Oh, yeah, we'll go across the top. Yeah, Mark Sherwood. I'm based in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm on the marketing team here, and yeah, just here to moderate, and I'm excited to learn more about what's going on across the org. Dennis?
Yeah, I'm Dennis. I'm streaming from Ukraine, and I'm community manager in VictoriaMetrics, and I will talk some new information from our community. GG.
Yeah, I'm Jean-Jérôme, and I work with Denise and with Diana and everyone else, of course, and I'm also in marketing, and I'll be supplementing the news from the community front on events and talks and content we've been putting together for the community.
Hi, my name is Roman. I'm engineering manager in VictoriaMetrics open source team and enterprise too. I'll be talking about new features that we have in Q3 in VictoriaMetrics. Ryan?
My name's Brian Jacobs. I'm the guest speaker today. You'll hear more about me when I actually get started, but I'm going to be doing a presentation on monitoring Kubernetes with VictoriaMetrics and VictoriaLogs.
And with Ryan joining us, it's doubled our Canadian content on here, so the CRTC will like that.
Yeah, they'll be happy with that one.
Thank you, Ryan. Diana?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Diana. I work in marketing as well, and I'm going to be talking to you about developer experience here at VictoriaMetrics.
Thanks, Diana. I'm Jose. I am the product lead for VictoriaMetrics Cloud, and yeah, I will be talking about all the cool things that this wonderful team has been doing. And we have Alexander with us.
Yeah, hello, I'm Alexander Valyalkin, CTO at VictoriaMetrics, and I'll talk about new features of VictoriaLogs, which have been appeared during the third quarter of this year.
Somebody shearing sheep with an open mic right now? I hear a noise. I don't know where that was coming from. Sorry. Yeah.
I believe it's a dog.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was just, it was such a funny little.
Probably that's my dogs here. I need to move.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I think in this day and age, we all expect to hear some interesting noise in the background of somebody's calls, or we're not quite doing it right. So that's awesome. Well, thanks everybody for the introductions. And again, I think we've got an exciting thing coming up. Each person that's going to be speaking is going to be sharing some pretty relevant information. So we hope you're here to stay through the whole session. If not, we will be posting this as a recording so you can watch it on demand and maybe carving out some of the topics. So real quick, before we dive into the nitty gritty, is there anything that anyone wants to share with us all here or anyone else? Anything that came up since our last virtual meetup? Anything interesting? Is there weather or something we want to talk about before we get going?
I don't know, but we just realized earlier today that, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but the next virtual meetup that we're going to have next quarter is going to be the 3-year anniversary of this event. And so we've been running this every quarter for the past 3 years, and we'll do thank yous in 3 months. But I just want to give kind of a heads up. So we'll try to make it a little bit special around that date. So that'll be December. So look out for that date and that invitation. Yeah.
We need to prepare some drinks for this meetup and celebrate during this meetup, the next meetup.
Exactly.
But it is, the meetups are done at 9:05 Pacific time, so I'll drink in the morning for you guys, but it's a tough call. Right on. Cool. So yeah, and I think I think everyone in our roles here have found some interesting stuff and worked with some neat clients and found some challenges and solved some problems. So those will probably come up organically as we go through here. If there's anything else anybody wants to share, we might want to kick it off with Roman, you going through and giving us the overall update and the state of the nation, if you will. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, let's go with slides. Yeah, while Mark puts in slides, you're free to ask any questions. Like people who are watching this, free ask any questions in the Google YouTube chat, and we will read them in the end of each slide, and we'll try to answer them at our best. And also there will be like a Q&A session where you, in the end of all this, where you can ask like more not related to the slides question, like when there will be a new product or something like that, or in which country to find us, or at which conference to find us. Anyway.
Yep. Yeah. So okay. Definitely encourage people to be as interactive as possible, right? Like if you've got a question, put it in the chat. We'll get to it when it's the right time. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome everyone. As I said, my name is Roman. I'm engineering manager in VictoriaMetrics, responsible for metrics product. And in these slides, I'll talk about what new we have in Q3 for VictoriaMetrics. So as you know, we're trying to keep up with the procedure of having bi-weekly releases in order to deliver bug fixes or security fixes as fast as possible. And in Q3, we had about 7 major releases. So major release, it's a one which doesn't have like a quick bug fix, but release with a new functionality. So we have right now the oldest is the newest is 126, and this next Monday will be 127. What's also important is that we have LTS lines. The LTS lines are those VictoriaMetrics distributions that get only bug fix releases, and they're recommended for long-term support. We support them for every LTS line for 1 year. And during Q3, we had to deprecate 102 because of the end of support. It's older than 1 year. And now we have a new line, 122.
Question on that one, Roman, if you don't mind me asking. When we release our new versions in LTSs, I'm just curious about the adoption rate of, how many of our users go to the latest and greatest versus letting it bake a little bit? If you have that information, I'm just curious. We
don't track our users, to be honest. So there is no any tracker in VictoriaMetrics, so we don't know effectively. Yeah. We know only how many people downloading it from the Docker Hub or from the GitHub, this public stats, but we do not track our users, so we don't have this answer. Which is
a great answer. Thanks, Roman.
Okay, so what's new? We have new search in our docs, and I believe many of you who tried our previous search were very, very much disappointed with the quality of results. It was finding everything except what you were looking for. So, but now it has changed. So one of engineers in our team was pissed off enough to fix it in a few days. So this new search, you can find it if you go to the docs.victoriametrics.com in the top right corner. It's only 3 weeks old, so it's kind of new. And I encourage everyone to try it. It looks like that. So you just press button, you search for your word. We use the external resource that manages this search for us. It basically indexes it in our documentation in a more clever way, and structurizes it to give it more like organizational perspective, what lies where, so you can find it easier. And we hope to improve it in future to add here like GitHub or maybe GitHub issues or maybe source code to make it easier for users to use. And of course, we can control it, which is very good, then much better than asking ChatGPT. Yeah. And by the way, ChatGPT, we have this Ask AI feature with all this magic, which kind of supposed to help you. It may sound not reliable, but I'm trying this feature all the time when I'm trying to respond to user questions on Twitter, on on Telegram or in Slack. I'm trying just to verify if this feature working. And in most cases, it is working. However, there is a disclaimer that please try to verify those responses. But in general, in 90% of cases, the AI search works okay. And also, if you see that something is not okay, you can find the information that should be there, or AI is misbehaving, please try to file a complaint to us, like to just write in the Slack or create a GitHub ticket, because we can adjust that. And we also see what people search, and when they're not satisfied with the searches, so you can put thumbs down if search doesn't work for you, and we'll see it. Maybe we will, maybe we can change that, right? Maybe we can add missing documentation or restructurize it in a better way.
I think Roman, that makes sense too, is that warning to verify responses. I think it's like anybody is, nobody should be copying commands from anywhere on the internet and pasting them. So it's like, it's verify, find and verify. So that's pretty critical.
Okay. Thanks to Maxim Kotlyar, Andriy Batyuk, Artem Navoyev, and Kasper Walter for implementing this feature. They did it very fast. And as I said, it's 3 weeks old, so many users do not know about this existence because they used to that search in our docs sucks. So I encourage everyone just to try it. We hope it will be much better experience now. Okay, what else? VMUI got new alerting page available from 1.25. So some may know that if you configure VM select with command line flag called VMAlert proxy URL, you can have the link to VMAlert UI right from the VM UI. It will lead you to the handwritten HTML page on VMAlert side with overview of pending alerts, etc. But we find out that not many users actually use it, or they don't like the interface, and it's hard to track whether that user interface is actually helpful. So now this alerting page is available in a new visual style directly in VM UI. So we are not taken anywhere to VMAlert. You see this, all the alerts centralized here. And what it also gives us is that we can unify features of VM UI and VMAlert now. So for example, you can click on the Run Query button here, and VM UI will execute this query, and you can troubleshoot your alerting rules or recording rules right in VM UI. You don't need to switch between interfaces. And in the future, we also plan to integrate it with Cardinality Explorer, for example, to find rules, recording rules that are not used by anyone, or to find the most expensive alerting or recording rule queries with the top queries feature. Before in VMAlert UI, we didn't have this access, but now VM UI gets more and more becomes more centralized console or panel for VictoriaMetrics capabilities. Now you have this alerting page directly in VM UI. You can try it on our playground, play.victoriametrics.com. And just see for yourself how it's working. And thanks to Andriy Batyuk, Haley, Artur Minchukov, and Yuri Molodov for implementing this feature. Okay, what else? We have open sourced alert statistics Grafana dashboard. That's a dashboard that we were using internally to find alerting rules that were super noisy or that were useless. But useless, I mean they never fire or always fire. Both types of these alerts are not bringing any value to the table. So this dashboard now, with this panel, it shows how much time the alert fires on this. So when it's red, it's it's firing. When it's green, it's not firing. Here I'm looking at 30-day interval, and I see that host context switching alerting rule is kind of always firing. So it makes no sense for me to have it. I probably need to either remove it or change it. And it also shows me on the time interval how many times this alerting rule triggered, or how many times specific alerting group triggered, which also helps to identify those rules that don't make sense. As I said, this dashboard is available publicly on our GitHub and also on our Grafana organization, so the grafana/org/VictoriaMetrics, where you can find all our plugins and dashboards. It's also available there. And you can try it on our Grafana playground on playgrafana.victoriametrics.com to see how it works. Maybe it will be useful for you to deal with alert fatigue.
And is that its general purpose? That's what I was going to ask. It is to help with alert fatigue, right? It's not it's not a resource. Okay. Yep.
Exactly. And this is why this alerting dashboard is mentioned in the blog post that I wrote together with Matthias. It's called Alerting Best Practices, and it's best practices from the practical standpoint. It's tightly connected with how VM Alert works and how metric scale expression work in VictoriaMetrics. So I recommend to read it. So far, I heard only positive feedback that people know some aspects of them, but usually they don't know all of them. So yeah, I encourage you to check this blog post. It contains many good recommendations how you can make your alerting rules reliable and reproducible.
Perfect. We'll update the description to include that link as well, so you can just click and go.
Yeah, I believe we can share the slides in the end, so all these links will work.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, on the previous meetup, I told that we have this metric usage tracker, a feature in VictoriaMetrics that allows seeing if specific metric name was ever queried by anything, by alerting rule, by recording rule, by ad hoc query, by the Grafana dashboard, anything. So it can track if you have useless metric names that no one queries. And it shows that exactly when was the last time when it was queried. But on the previous meetup, for get this feature working, you had to enable it. And we see that the feature is more or less stable, and there is no any negative things about it. And we only got positive feedback. Many users reported that they shrinked their workload by dropping all those metrics that they don't use. And this was super helpful for them. So from 1.22 version, it's enabled by default. You can disable it if you want, but by default, every new VictoriaMetrics will have this integrated with Cardinality Explorer, and you can use it to find metrics that you don't need.
Well, quick question on that one, Roman. Now, I agree. It totally will help find metrics that you're not using, that you're storing, that's just costing you money and performance. But is there also the possibility that somebody could see in there is a metric that is important that's never being queried, and it means that somebody's dashboard could be configured wrong? So could it also indicate a blind spot in some cases, or is that okay?
Yes, that's a good point. And we had together with you a call. I forgot how it was called, but it was in August or something like that, where we discussed this. So when accepting this feature to the upstream, I was validating it, and I figured out that on our I tested it on VictoriaMetrics installation together with Grafana dashboards that we shipped. And I found that some important metrics that exposed by VictoriaMetrics are not used on that dashboard or not used in the alerting rules. And after accepting this feature, I filed a pull request where I added those metrics to either alerting rules or to the dashboard. And those were very cool metrics that I just forgot that they exist, which exactly makes your point that there could be a blind spot because you just don't know that you don't use that metric.
That's right. Yeah. We don't know what we don't know. And this is the what you don't know dashboard, basically, right? This is educating. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. This feature is kind of small, but I find it interesting. So from very beginning, VictoriaMetrics had a flag called log new series. That's a command line flag that you enable, and VictoriaMetrics single node or storage will start logging the new time series in real time, just into std out. That flag was supposed to help users to find out what are the new series that are created right now, because none other way to find this new series will help. Cardinality Explorer shows series per day, and if you have millions of series, it's very hard to see what is bleeding right now. And the only solution was to use this log new series flag. But in order to use it, you need to restart the process. And with VictoriaMetrics cluster, it's kind of complicated. You need to restart all the storage nodes, which makes this disturbance in the force. And also, this log new series is not free, because if you create 1,000 series per second, you have to log that. And that could be expensive. So when you created it, when you enable it, you need to disable it afterwards. And this feature makes it more usable by actually, you can call the API handler, and it will turn it on for a short period of time and then automatically turn it off after the configured interval. By default, it turns on logging of these files of this new series for 1 minute. So the typical use case, you notice that churn goes up, new series are created in the storage, but you don't know what are they. Just go to any VM storage node, make this call, observe the logs, and it will automatically shut off after 1 minute. And this could help you to find out what are those series, where they're coming from. So quality of life improvement. Yeah, and this feature was delivered by community, thanks to the person on the screen who created it. And yeah, it was very nice collaboration. Thank you. Other usability improvements. So we have this snapshot functionality, which helps you to create a kind of backup of the data that you have in the storage. It makes a snapshot of the data, and that snapshot is free, but it's free for a short period of time. So it doesn't occupy any disk space. But as time goes, that snapshot starts occupying disk space because it's based on the hard links. And it was a very common thing when people were forgetting to delete those snapshots, and they started occupying more and more disk space. And those people tried to find out what exactly occupies that, and any maintenance burden, right? And it's despite the fact that we have a time series that says how many time series how many snapshots you have right now. We have a command line flag, snapshots max age, which you can set to drop old snapshots automatically, but still those questions keep coming up. So we decided to change the default value of this snapshot max age to 3 days. So by default, if you created a snapshot, it will be deleted after 3 days in newer versions of VictoriaMetrics. You can revert to the previous behavior by setting snapshot max age 0. But in general, there should not be cases where this snapshot should be storing for longer, because the process should be like that. You create a snapshot, you upload it in somewhere, because the point of the backup is that it should be somewhere, not close, not on the same hardware as the VM storage, because if hardware will break, the backup you made will break too. So it's always uploading somewhere. That's why there is no sense for keeping those snapshots for a longer period of time. If you do, don't do this anymore.
Okay. Is there any situation that you can think of where if somebody is currently using snapshots and they're dependent on the 3-day and they don't know of the change, what a symptom might be? Is there a...
No, you can't use that snapshot. That snapshot is basically the piece of data. You can only replace it. You can't query it actively. I can imagine only the situation where you're testing something, where you're taking the snapshot of the data, then you add something new to data or delete data or whatever, and then you can test 2 new data sets. But anyway, even in this case, it shouldn't take like longer than 3 days, from my understanding. And if you need the longer period of time, just set snapshot max age.
Thanks.
Another source of confusion or support questions that we have is the why query shows this or not that. So unexpected query results. And we have this button that many users don't know about. It's called debug query. In the right top corner, there is a bug icon you can press when you execute the query. And it will help you to generate a report that can be shared with someone else. This report can contain arbitrary description of what is happening. It takes a snapshot of what you're seeing on the screen, and it also takes the query trace. So if you want to get a better support from someone, why this query looking like this, you can use this functionality and share the generated report. Then any other person with that report, they can simply import it in VM UI in the troubleshooting section, and they will see what you see together with the trace, and that will help them to understand what's happening.
That's a nice quality of life improvement versus trying to document it yourself and send it off to the help.
Yep. And another helpful thing for troubleshooting queries is exporting raw data. So we have this raw query tab which allows you to see non-extrapolated raw samples, just like as they stored in the disk. You will see duplicates, you will see uneven timestamps, etc. And in most of cases, when we debug some unexpected query behavior, we ask for raw data. But in order to get raw data, you need to execute the curl command to export the data. Now you can just press the download button from this raw query tab, and you will get this in JSON or CSV format. And this is how you basically export the raw data from the VM UI without running any curl commands or trying to come up with. It's just easier to do. So you export it and then you share it or import it into VictoriaMetrics for testing purposes. Yeah, it's quality of life improvement.
For sure.
Okay, we also got support of the label limit param for scraping targets. So it basically allows you to limit how many labels every series could have in the scraped target. And if any series exceeds that limit, the target marked as bad target will be marked with an error. And you can set this limit just right in the scrape config. You can set it on the global level and then overwrite on the scrape config. And you also can supply it via service discovery as a meta label and then reuse it or modify it. So you can dynamically then change it per each target. And this is another improvement. We also got a bunch of performance optimizations that are not all. I will not be reading them because usually performance optimizations are related to some specific case, and it's complicated to explain them all. I'm just encouraging you to make updates more frequently in order to get just better experience of with VictoriaMetrics products.
We're already such good performance. It's wild that you keep eking out more performance out of this. Great work, team.
Sure. And one more thing. So I showed the screenshot as the first slide with the documentation, and maybe you didn't notice something. So if you take a look closer, there is a word traces now. So we have metrics, we have VictoriaLogs that Alexander will tell you about, but we also have now traces. So traces is a new database by VictoriaMetrics for storing traces. It's called VictoriaTraces. And it's built on top of VictoriaLogs. Why? Because trace telemetry is basically a wide event. And VictoriaLogs is perfectly capable of storing wide events. And this is why we got this idea of creating VictoriaTraces on top of VictoriaLogs. And basically, VictoriaTraces is just a wrapper which provides the API for ingesting traces and API for querying traces back. And everything else is stored in VictoriaLogs. So these are features that we have right now. We support ingestion in OpenTelemetry protocol, and we support querying using Jaeger API. Jaeger API allows us to integrate this VictoriaTraces in Grafana using Jaeger data source. Or you can also use Jaeger UI, which will talk to VictoriaTraces directly. In our tests, it is about 3 times more RAM efficient and 2 times CPU efficient compared to Grafana Tempo, for example. It also supports all the capabilities that VictoriaLogs supports. All the advancements that are made by VictoriaLogs team are also included into VictoriaTraces. For example, it supports alerting using VM alerts in the same way as VictoriaLogs supports it.
Question, Roman, does it incorporate the clustering or the same topology?
Yeah. Yes, it has all the same capabilities like partitioning per day that you can attach and detach dynamically partitions with the data, all this stuff. So when VictoriaLogs will get all the features, VictoriaTraces will get the same features exactly because it uses it internally.
That's awesome.
VictoriaTraces is developed by one person, Jay Kuhn. And kudos to him. He made a brilliant work, and he was, I really appreciate what he did. And he has a blog post called Developers Note, Research on Distributed Tracing, comparing with Tempo and ClickHouse. And there he described how this all works internally, and he made the benchmarks comparing these 3 solutions. I encourage everyone to read this blog post in order to understand better why it is working like that and what is the future of VictoriaTraces. And also you can see comparison with ClickHouse, for example, which is a very popular backend for traces. Yeah, VictoriaTraces is publicly open source Apache 2 available on our GitHub. And yeah, everyone can just use it. We have Docker images for that. We have quick starts, documentation, everything that help you to start using traces. Display it in Grafana and ingest via OpenTelemetry. Yep, and since we have this now logs, metrics, and traces, we decided to get the full OpenTelemetry experience. And there is a product called OpenTelemetry Demo, which basically a big Docker file, Docker Compose file with a lot of products interconnected that emit telemetry signals in OpenTelemetry, and you have a Grafana which helps you to explore those signals, to see the dashboards, how they're interconnected, all that stuff. So since we have metrics, logs, and traces products on our own, we decided to replace in that product Prometheus with VictoriaMetrics, OpenSearch with VictoriaLogs, and Jaeger with VictoriaTraces. And I encourage, if you're interested into OpenTelemetry, you can just check this repo in VictoriaMetrics community organization. It has this big Docker Compose file where everything is already configured. You install it, you just run it with Docker, and you get Grafana with all these telemetry signals. You can explore traces, metrics, logs, see how it works, and decide if it's okay for you, if it fits your needs or no. Okay, and yeah, thanks to Alexander Marshall for making fork and replacing these components there. And that's all from me. These are just some useful links for everyone to explore. And yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, thanks, Roman. That was a great hop on, hop off tour of all the stuff that's new. There's a lot that you covered. So again, encourage everybody to go out and try these things. And we do have a Q&A coming up at the end of this. So if there is any questions about anything that's covered, we'll be addressing them. So thank you so much, Roman. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. All right. So next up, I'm going to change the. Sorry, I'm just reading the screen to try to find where Ryan's intro here. So everyone, I would like to introduce Ryan Jacobs. Ryan is our guest speaker today. He will introduce himself and tell a bit more about him, but some of our team found some great articles that Ryan had written, and included in those were some series about his experience with VictoriaMetrics and VictoriaLogs, and it was really compelling. And we wanted to share that and just highlight some of the success of our users. So Ryan, without further ado, I'd love to have you introduce yourself and then take us through the introduction to monitoring Kubernetes with the VictoriaMetrics stack.
All right. Yeah, thanks so much, Mark. And of course, thank you to the entire VictoriaMetrics team, Dennis, Roman, Alexander, JJ, Artem, everybody that's here. Thank you so much for inviting me to come and share this with you. I'm, honored to be here. So thanks again. That's my big ugly mug there. Again, my name is Ryan Jacobs. I'm a solutions architect with Insight Canada. Been around in IT for at least 15 years professionally, actually a lot longer than that for family support and all that other sort of stuff. The last 6 years I've been specializing a lot in cloud architecture. And modern applications sort of means, anything that's deployed on Kubernetes, platform as a service stuff, that sort of stuff inside various clouds. I'm a father of 3, and weird little tidbit about me, I was a nationally ranked competitive figure skater here in Canada before the year 2000. So
that's wild. And we're pretty good. Canada's known for figure skating too. So that's awesome.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess what's the source of this talk? Again, as mentioned already by Mark, this is, I wrote a series of Medium articles about this, and I'll put some links to those if you want to go and find those afterwards. But it was also just kind of coming around my own work with Insight, implementing Kubernetes clusters for a variety of clients, and sometimes even stepping in different monitoring projects that were already in flight, and had issues with various monitoring, et cetera. And what I wanted to do when I started writing the articles was I wanted to take this kind of big nebulous box that tends to be monitoring Kubernetes in general and break it down and figure out exactly what each of the components were. And while I was doing that, I was also implementing VictoriaMetrics and VictoriaLogs on my own home Kubernetes cluster, because it's a lab and that's what I do with that sort of thing. So that's where all of this is coming from. What I did in the articles and kind of what I'm going to talk through here as well is we're going to talk about this from an architectural perspective first, because again, when I wrote these articles, I wanted to understand what each of the components were actually doing. And so this diagram I put together in terms of like, these are the different components that we are actually going to be monitoring, and we need to kind of understand what each of these layers is. And I'm going to break these all down here. So at the very bottom, we start off with the infrastructure, and your infrastructure is going to look different depending on where you are. Obviously, bare metal on premises is going to look different than in the cloud. So for example, that box there that's network physical, in the cloud, you don't have access to that. That's not something that you're going to be monitoring with either VictoriaMetrics or VictoriaLogs. That's likely going to be, you probably won't even see the monitoring for the physical side of it at the cloud layer. You'll probably see things like virtual networks or VPCs or whatever you have there, but you're not going to be seeing some of this stuff. Same thing with the virtualization or physical hosts. It's all going to depend a little bit on exactly what it is that you're going to be, exactly what your infrastructure looks like. Some of these are monitored by other people, etc. So just really sort of depends. When we move up into the Kubernetes layer, now we start to look at the things that we're probably a little bit more familiar with, things like events, the kubelet, etcd, the scheduler, kube controller manager, all of these different things. But again, it's relevant to point out that some things you won't see. If you have your own Kubernetes cluster, etcd is going to be relevant. If you're using AKS or EKS, you won't see that because it's managed by the cloud provider. So some of these things will or won't be in scope as well. The next two layers are the Kubernetes objects and workloads themselves. And so that's things like your daemon sets, deployment services, ingresses. We're also going to be taking a look at this level at things like backups, data replication for in-cluster stuff like your PVs and PVCs. TLS certificate expiry is going to live in there. Whatever it is, all that stuff lives in the Kubernetes objects and workloads. And then your application's probably pretty obvious what that is. That's your business workloads. And that may not actually expose anything new directly. Often it does, because you'll have, the pods or containers or whatever are going to be exposing metrics. But we need to be aware of it, and we need to make sure that we're actually ingesting things out of it. When we're looking, just to kind of, when we're talking about monitoring in general, there's a lot of terms that kind of get thrown around. And so just to sort of disambiguate all of that, let's just really quickly talk about each one. So instrumentation is going to be the thing that everything is going to be instrumented in some way if you want to expose metrics to it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about formats in a minute, but the instrumentation is the thing that goes into the actual software that will expose whatever, metrics in this case is likely what I'm talking about here, but it could be whatever else. So that's instrumentation. Telemetry is going to be the data itself. And there's really three kinds of telemetry that we're going to be gathering for the most part. So you'll have metrics. Those are going to be time series database stuff. So that's what VictoriaMetrics will do. Things like, percent CPU at a particular time. That's a time series element. Logs, I don't know why it's puppy paws, but there we are. Logs are what they are more unstructured data. They usually have a timestamp associated with it, but they can have many fields. The structure of them is very, it's very, very unstructured. So they could be big, they could be small, but it's something like, Ryan Jacobs published a new Medium article at this time, right? So there's no structure to it, although oftentimes you will find structure inside of a specific type of log, but that's kind of neither here nor there. And then, of course, there's traces, which we did already hear a little bit about. It is, as mentioned, it's just kind of a special kind of log. That is, yet another type of telemetry. And the traces obviously let, various operators and software SREs, whoever's monitoring this stuff, kind of lets you see, the trace through the entire distributed system. It helps to find issues in the system wherever those may happen to be. So now that we understand a little bit about what we're doing, I've taken that same image before and I've wrapped around the edges. You can see there's metrics on the left, there are logs on the right, and then tracing is at the top. And it's really meant to, the intention there is to make it obvious that this kind of goes around all of the things that we're looking at. But we can also add another layer. We can colorize this a little bit to make it a little bit nicer to look at. We can identify what are the things in each of these layers that we're monitoring for. And not only that, but what are we gathering from each thing? So there's some colors there at the bottom. Obviously, logs, just logs, are things like events. There's a few things that I've marked out of scope here. And that, again, this image comes right from the set of blog posts. So I was implementing this on my home Talos Linux cluster. And so I'm not using Cloud Controller Manager at home, and I'm not using kubeproxy because I'm using Cilium CNI, which replaces kubeproxy. And the physical network is like it's one switch and I don't care about it. So, that sort of thing. So this is indicative of my installation. It's not necessarily going to be yours. So when you're taking a look at, your particular architecture, you'll probably have to do something similar to this to understand exactly what it is that you need to gather, how, where, etc.
Yeah. I really like, sorry, Ryan, I really like the way you put the box around them like it is. That to me, I've never seen it represented that way. And it does just make you see that it's everything that's included comes out of those walls. So
yeah. I mean, obviously as a solutions architect, I have to do this sort of communications quite a lot. And this is the best way that I found to do it. I've seen other versions of it, same as you, and it just never quite wrapped it up well. So thank you very much. I worked hard on it as much as it doesn't look like it, but and then just to add a couple of other things here, we've got obviously dashboarding and alerting. And in this particular case, I just kind of added those boxes around the back there to say that, we're going to be ingesting and doing things with all of this as well, just to kind of have the whole picture laid out for us there. Now, I'm going to be focusing only on metrics and logs here. There's a lot more information in the articles that kind of dives into a bit more on, already what I've talked about, kind of the primer there. There's a lot more information in the articles. And then spoiler alert, I haven't done traces yet, but double spoiler alert, it's going to be with VictoriaTraces. And that is coming. So just before we get moving, most people have probably heard the term de facto. And when I'm talking, basically what it means is that this is a practice that exists in reality as being kind of the standard, whether or not it's officially recognized as such. And everyone is going to know immediately what I'm talking about here, which is that, when we're talking about the metrics space in Kubernetes, just about everything is going to be talking about Prometheus and Thanos and those sorts of things, although Mimir's making inroads there as well. But what's interesting about Kubernetes in particular is that basically everything has, so remember I talked about instrumentation, right? The instrumentation inside of most of Kubernetes and just about everything that's put into Kubernetes uses a Prometheus instrumentation standard. VictoriaMetrics ingests that just fine. And so, of course, when we talk about the de facto standard, most of the time people say, how do I monitor my Kubernetes? And the first thing that comes up is the Prometheus stack, right? Now, that's obviously not the direction I wanted to go for a variety of reasons here. So, enter, of course, VictoriaMetrics.
But if I ask, what were some of those reasons that you decided to try something different?
I have a whole slide about that.
Oh, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, wait, there's more. So there's a few things. The biggest one actually that kind of kicked this off was that, by comparison to Prometheus, VictoriaMetrics has a clustered mode that it can do out of the box. Prometheus, in order to get, data duplication to make sure that, when the only pod that's running Prometheus in your entire cluster goes away for some reason, the only way to do it is you can have multiples of them, but it doesn't deduplicate. So you'll have multiples of them and it increases the amount of resources you're using, whether it's storage or CPU or whatever, because it's ingesting everything twice or 3 times or however many times you've got it there. Whereas VictoriaMetrics doesn't do that. It automatically deduplicates and has this clustered mode built in right from the start. There's also really great storage options. Again, here in my home cluster, I have NFS. Boo, I know, but that's what I've got in terms of a shared storage that's available to all of my nodes, and it supports NFS, whereas like right in the Prometheus documentation, it doesn't. And it's either that or you have to do object storage, or you've got to stick it up in a blob in the cloud or something, and none of that worked for me. I wanted something that was going to work with multiple options. It was easy to do, and it's supported right out of the box. So that's great. In general, VictoriaMetrics actually does also it's simpler to deploy and run. That's been my experience with it. There's a few reasons for that, which I'll get into. But even if we just take a look at the number of components that are deployed, even when in the clustered mode, which there's a whole ton of them, it actually seems to be a lot simpler. Again, especially if you're not doing something like Thanos with Prometheus, where you want to take a bunch of clusters and you want to stick them somewhere else. And I know that we've got, I forget what the product is with VictoriaMetrics that does essentially the same thing, where you can kind of have that, centralized storage cluster for all of your clusters or whatever. And you can do that with VictoriaMetrics as well. But Thanos just seemed like it's, I don't know, it seemed hard, and I didn't like that. So I decided to go with VictoriaMetrics here. I don't have anything to back this up, but there's plenty of blog articles and information out there that talks about, how much more resource efficient VictoriaMetrics is. I've seen that over and over. And certainly even again, just looking at the number of components that are deployed with VictoriaMetrics versus when I deploy Prometheus, especially when you include things like Thanos and whatever, way more resource efficient. And there's that multi-tenant capability, which I'm not using, but that was something that came up actually in a project that I was working with another client. We needed, unfortunately, we weren't able to go down the VictoriaMetrics route because they'd already selected, Prometheus and Thanos. But the ability to do multi-tenancy with VMauth and VM Gateway is phenomenal, and it's right out of the box with those components. So that's the reasons why I decided to kick the tires here at VictoriaMetrics.
Sweet.
Now, again, sort of when we go to do this, you'll usually see something like the VictoriaMetrics Kate stack, which is a Helm chart, or again, Kubernetes stack. And so those are the analogs. And the VictoriaMetrics Kate stack deploys a number of things. So it deploys a VictoriaMetrics operator by default, and then via CRDs, and this is something I'm going to talk about in a second, it will then deploy all the VictoriaMetrics components. It could be VM single if you're just wanting to do that, or you can do the cluster mode. It also deploys the VictoriaMetrics VM agent, which is, I think, what gathers the metrics for the most part, or yeah, it's the scraper. It also deploys node exporter, kube state metrics, and can deploy Grafana Alert Manager and VM Alert if you want. And again, I'm going to leave Grafana Alert Manager out of scope for this because that's a whole other topic. I do cover it in the articles if you're interested. So, what are kind of each of these things? And so this is the diagram I drew out of all the components that get deployed in when you deploy the VictoriaMetrics. VictoriaMetrics Kate stack, and these are all the components that you do, and this is essentially what popped out of it. And so on the left there, you see sort of your typical nodes in Kubernetes, whether those are the control planes or the worker nodes. And then inside of the VM operator box, that's intended to kind of say, okay, this is what the operator is going to deploy. And then over on the right side there, you can see, of course, that I've got my TrueNAS NAS, which is where my NFS exports are, and that's where things are getting stored. Just to kind of break some of this down, VM insert and VM select these are the stateless, and they're responsible for writing to and pulling from the storage layer respectively. Again, they're HA, which is fantastic. VM storage is the storage layer itself. This is obviously responsible for storing things somewhere, in this case in stateful storage. VM agent is the scraper, as mentioned. And reads those various Prometheus endpoints. The instrumentation can also do Prometheus style service discovery, which is a powerful feature. Kube state metrics. This is not a VictoriaMetrics product. This is something that gets deployed, again, whether kind of however you're doing that. And what it's doing is listening to the Kubernetes API server, and it's actually generating metrics about the state of the objects. And that would be that layer 3 in the diagram at the very beginning of this series, where it said like these are the Kubernetes objects. That's what Kube state metrics is responsible for doing. Node exporter is the kind of the standard way of getting that node level. Those will be layer 1 metrics. It's going to also include, so it'll be CPU usage, memory disk, and will intelligently provide that information. It's going to differ between virtual machine versus bare metal. That it will intelligently kind of give you all of that sort of stuff. And then, of course, just to quickly mention SCD, Kube Controller Manager, and Scheduler. Of course, these are not part of the VictoriaMetrics stack. These are part of the control plane. But they are called out because in my installation, and again, you'll see this in the articles, you have to do something with them to get them to actually get stuff out of them properly in Talos. And again, oftentimes you may not even get those at all in the cloud. So just something to come back to. The kubelet is also a really important one. That actually is a target for the VM agent to go and grab all the information about the running pods. So anytime you're looking for CPU usage for a pod, it's actually coming from the kubelet, and it's scraped by VM agent. So this is essentially the bird's eye view, the overview of how it is that all of this stuff is getting monitored in Kubernetes. And this was one of the biggest reasons why I actually started down the road of doing those articles, because I want to understand what each of these components were actually doing. I'd heard them all, seen them all, deployed them all, but needed to know what each.
But yeah, exactly. That engineer's mind of, well, what is it doing and why, right?
Yeah.
How can I break this?
So, again, I kind of already mentioned this, but the controller manager, scheduler, etcd will typically require some kind of special attention, but it's going to depend on your Kubernetes flavor. Just really briefly, I do also talk about operators. And so and I'm going to talk a bit more about the documentation around all of this later, but one of the things that, sorry about that. One of the things that I got into here, and I actually did see a question over on the YouTube stream about VM operator, was when we're looking at deploying a Helm chart that has all of these things, what's actually happening under the hood with that Helm chart is the Helm chart isn't creating a stateful set definition or a deployment definition or even PVC definitions. What it's actually doing is using VictoriaMetrics via VM operator. It's using CRDs to define what we want our VM or like what the VictoriaMetrics cluster inside the Kubernetes cluster looks like, including all of the definitions for everything. I'm not going to go too much into talking about why this is good, other than saying when you're doing GitOps, it's fantastic. You can make sure that however it is that you're doing things, and especially when you're looking at adding in scraping definitions for your different workloads and stuff like that, when you add them in using a CRD, it gets very, very powerful, as opposed to oftentimes you're doing this in a way more imperative manner. So I talk a little bit more about this in the articles, but just to be aware, when we're deploying metrics, most of the time you're actually doing it via the operator, which is a good thing because there's a lot going on there. So as a general statement, that's kind of the metrics side of the equation. This is, how it is that this is what I've done, and kind of what I've, this is the introduction again to doing things with metrics. And now we're going to talk a little bit about logging. So of course, now we're switching products slightly. We're going to VictoriaLogs. And my statement and my assertion here is that logging is probably as important, if not in some cases even more so than metrics. And the reason I say this is because a lot of people, and again, going back to that whole parallel between Prometheus and VictoriaMetrics, most of the time people say, okay, I deployed the Kubernetes stack, I'm done, right? No. Logs are extremely important, and it's remarkable how often that kind of gets left to the side. So again, I wanted to look at, okay, well, what are we going to do how are we going to do this? There's the obvious choices, Loki being kind of the big one. But when I looked at VictoriaLogs, again, same thing. Why did I go with VictoriaLogs? Other than the fact that it was there next to VictoriaMetrics and kind of made some sense to standardize on kind of one thing. But when we're looking at this, we got to answer a few questions. One is, of course, how are we doing the ingestion of these logs? And there's lots of options, and that's actually one of the biggest things with VictoriaLogs. You can kind of pick and choose. It ingests in many different formats, none of which I've listed because I can't remember. But Loki is definitely one of them, and that's actually the one that I ended up choosing. You've got lots of options for agents to scrape those logs and not scrape. Yeah, I guess scrape, and then pull them in. Into VictoriaLogs itself. Just like VictoriaMetrics, it supports multiple different storage types, including NFS, which is, again, for me, fantastic. I did not want to have my logs being streamed up to some blob in Azure just because that was the only choice. And that was not good enough for me. And of course, it does deduplication and a bunch of other stuff as well in that clustered mode. And I actually don't have clustered in here. I probably should have put it in there, but it is there. And then, of course, the last part of this is going to be analysis of those logs. And the VM anomaly is going to come up later, which I don't know if that actually that's metrics, but an analysis is kind of out of scope. But Grafana alerting, if you've got any sort of other agents wrapped around that or machine learning wrapped around that to kind of expose as needed. And again, multi-tenancy is another thing here that's kind of interesting. So what I did is I added to my diagram. And so here we go. We've got a couple of VictoriaLogs things. And on the left, you can see that I'm gathering a few more bits and pieces. I used Vector, which is, I think it's by Datadog actually, but it's an open source product to gather. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a second. But I use that to gather all the logs, push them to the different VL servers. They've got their independent log stores. And quite frankly, VictoriaLogs was just so simple to set up. It was just part of this is because I had already done the pre-work with VictoriaMetrics. So there's a few questions that I had to answer around, how do we do NFS PVCs in Talos, for example. But once I had that, then it was just it was remarkable how easy it was.
Question on that one, Ryan. Was there a point where you got it and you thought, well, I must have missed something because it can't be done?
Yeah. I mean, and you'll probably notice as well in there that I used the VL server or VL single and not the clustered version. That actually was because I think when I did this, the clustered version wasn't quite there yet. It just seemed like, I think the Helm chart wasn't there, and I just said, well, this is probably all I need for now. If I was to redo this, I would actually go and do the same thing. So I would use the clustered version, which might kind of increase the difficulty.
Yeah, the nice thing with that, Ryan, actually is there's only a single binary for VictoriaLogs. Yeah. So when you update to a new version of VictoriaLogs, it's a config flag you change, and it is a cluster, and it picks its own thing. So with VictoriaMetrics, you have to pre-plan to go if I'm going to cluster or not. With VictoriaLogs and VictoriaTraces, all the binaries are the same. So you start with just a single one, and when you want to expand, you just deploy another node and hit the flag, and away it goes. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. And again, more reasons why, I'm kind of falling more and more in love with this whole situation. So
that's what we love to hear.
So the other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about here really quickly is Kubernetes events. And this is one of those things, this is another one of those monitoring components that tends to go by the wayside. But so often we hear, why did my pod crash? Or it's not scheduling, or what's going on here. And the Kubernetes events by default, as many people will know, only persist for 60 minutes by default in etcd. They also don't get logged anywhere else by default. They're in etcd and that's it. So if you don't do a kubectl get events or whatever in the time that it matters, or you're not looking at Argo CD, which will show them as well, or whatever however it is that you're looking at that, you can't see them anywhere else. They don't get logged. So I went through the process, or I went through as I was doing this, I said, I've got to make sure we get those events logged somehow, because that's extremely important. Again, I'll just call out that, on my Talos Linux cluster, bare metal, where I have access to etcd, I can see this. In the cloud, that's going to usually be done by something else. So just keep that in mind, that you'll probably have to do this a different way, but still there. I ran into a big problem with this, though, which is that when I was looking for how to actually gather these things, there was lots of dead projects out there, some that hadn't been updated for several years, all kinds of stuff. It was really kind of weird, actually, and kind of telling. There was one that I did end up using, which was this Kubernetes event exporter. And that was the one that I ended up using. It's a fork. The one that I use is actually a fork of the original project. So again, more sort of evidence that this is kind of a weird dead space. I don't know why. Somebody did, after I published the article, somebody did point out in a comment that the OpenTelemetry project does have a K8s events receiver now, but it is an alpha only. It's not, it hasn't graduated beyond that. And then of course, Alexander actually mentioned he commented on my post as well and said, this would be great if it was a VictoriaLogs collector. Now the question mark is there because I'm not actually sure if it does yet. So if that's coming, I would love to know that. And that would be really great because again, standardize on all the things. I would likely replace Vector with the VictoriaLogs collector in a new version of this anyway. And especially if you can do events out of Kubernetes, that would be spectacular. Cool. So I don't know if Alex, if you want to comment on whether or not that is in there or not. I couldn't find evidence of it in the documentation when I was looking, but that was really cool to see.
Do you mind is it all right if I bring Alex in real quick just to talk about that? If that's okay, Alex, are you?
Yeah. The VictoriaLogs collector is based on VL agent actually. It's agent for collecting logs, transformation of these logs, and replicating these logs across different VictoriaLogs destinations. And at the moment, it doesn't support collecting of Kubernetes events, but we are going to add support for collecting Kubernetes events in the future.
That's fantastic. Thanks. I really appreciate that. That would be fantastic to see. Make it, again, all nice and contained within the same sort of ecosystem here.
Alex.
And again, sort of just kind of going back to what I ended up implementing, and I actually do have a GitHub repo with all of the code that's in the Medium articles, and I actually opened an issue in my own repo because that's what I do, that says, there's an issue with the Kubernetes events exporter as I implemented it, and it's actually using a Bitnami chart, which boo, as of all of the stuff that's been happening lately. So I need to fix that. But again, if VictoriaLogs collectors or the OTel one does the job without needing to go down that road, then that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And one thing I just want to throw in there is just, I found it really neat that, you wrote this on your own accord, you started this project, and then our team was seeing it and giving feedback right in there. I think that's a great part of example of the community.
Yep.
And we'd love to listen to our users, right? You know what you need. So to me, that was a really exciting part of the story. Sorry.
And it was great. I actually opened a couple of GitHub issues, and I think it was you replied to a few things, and I was annoying people about traces, and then all of a sudden VictoriaTraces happened. So like some of this I feel slightly responsible for, but anyway, and there's more to explore here. There's obviously VM Auth, which I didn't do. VM Gateway, Traces is right there, and again, I really want to go that way. We're going to hear about VM Anomaly today, which is great. VM Distributed is the one I was thinking of that I think is analogous to Thanos. That would be neat to take a look at. VM Backup Manager. I didn't do any of these in my articles, but it would be really awesome to sort of take a look at this. The last thing I'm going to touch on here before I kind of wrap it up, and I'm over time, so I apologize to everybody, but and we already heard that the documentation has been updated with the AI search, and I'd be curious to see how much that changes things. But what I did find when I was going through this is that the documentation, and this is true, this is not an exclusively VictoriaMetrics, VictoriaLogs problem. This happens all over, and for a particular reason that I'm going to talk about in the Kubernetes space, which is that the documentation can be a challenge. So this screenshot right here is, for example, let's say I wanted to configure this storage data path, which is a command line flag that's passed into the binary. Well, how do you go about doing that? In the documentation on VictoriaLogs, this is all there is. There's only the command line flags, and there is no tie-in to how do you configure that via, for example, the Helm chart. Turns out this is how you do it, and there's very little tie there. And so, but then what you end up seeing is you do that, and then what you end up on the other end of it is you get this storage data path flag, which is what we were looking for in the first place. But not only is that happening, there's a bunch of other stuff happening. So remember that I was talking about, this is actually metrics, not logs, so it's not completely the same, these screenshots here, but this is the CRD on the left. And then you can see that there's the storage data path there. It also does the volume claim templates, but it also does the volume mounts, and then it also does the volume claim templates. And tying all of this stuff together with the documentation is really was a real challenge when I was doing this. And the difference between the Helm chart versus the CLI flags, because the CRDs, there's kind of not really a very clear link there. So I'd really like to see more effort put into that and making sure that those things are really clear depending on your implementation path. Here's how you do it in Kubernetes. Here's how you do it with, the Helm chart. Here's what the operator looks like, etc. I spent a lot of time reading the CRD docs, which if anybody's ever done that, that's not a developer, and I'm developer adjacent. So like I do the ops part of DevOps. I can do it, but it's not my strong suit. That was kind of a real challenge for me. The last thing, of course, I'll mention here is, when you do searches for how do I do a thing, you're going to see CRDs for Prometheus a lot. And of course, the VictoriaMetrics ones are different. Duh. But they don't, and there are places where they're almost exactly the same, and there are places where there aren't. So just be really careful, and again, go through as we see a greater adoption, I think, of VictoriaMetrics, we'll see more examples to pull from. And that was actually part of the reason why I wrote the articles. I wanted a good example for people to be able to go out and follow, and have something to actually fall back to. I'm going to post these links, the GitHub there with the GitHub there with the code for everything that I did in the articles. If you search on Medium IT Next for my name, and then you can just look for Kubernetes monitoring, a complete solution, you'll find that part 1, or there's currently 10 articles. It's also in the GitHub. There's links to all of them. And actually VictoriaLogs, the articles in VictoriaMetrics there, has a link as well to some of my things as well. So thank you so much for putting that up. I did have space here for questions. I don't know if we want to do that or if we want to wait till the end. But I'm over time, so I apologize that I went a little over. But here we are.
No, Ryan, that was awesome. That was really great. Thank you so much. And yeah, if there are any questions that come up, I tried to share the links via StreamYard to YouTube, but it didn't. I didn't have the permission, so we will make sure that the links that you shared are in the description as well, because I think we definitely, anybody watching this will want to go check it out, grab the files from GitHub, and take advantage of the learnings that you went through, because I think you nailed it where you're saying is like it will develop, it'll get better, and you wanted to get through there first, and you stepped in a couple of pits, and you're helping people understand how to avoid those same challenges on the way forwards. I mean, again, that's just, to me, it's just the ethos of the community. So I really thank you for A, doing that, and B, being willing to come on here and chat with us and share with the VictoriaMetrics team and the rest of our users what you're
Absolutely. No, I'm more than happy to do it. Thank you guys again so much for having me. It was a real pleasure. So thanks again.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we really appreciate it, and everyone also, please do keep on top of what Ryan's writing, because he's obviously an expert, and he caught our eye, and we were interested in what he's doing. So it's a good recommendation. So thank you so much, Ryan. Have a great rest of your day. If there are any questions, sorry, I should ask if anybody does have any questions. I don't see any in the YouTube one, so yeah.
I had one question that I saw in YouTube chat.
Okay.
And then one shameless plug for our Tech Talks.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what made you decide to use Talos Linux over something like K0s or K3s?
It's a great question. So I actually formerly was using K3s. I've implemented K3s a number of times. I actually really do like K3s. A lot of what it came down to was number one, it's the hardened distribution and it just kind of, you turn on a Talos node, you're accessing it via API. And in particular, because I do, like at home in particular, I don't have all the options and features of a cloud, right? So when I want to bootstrap something in the cloud, I typically use Terraform or ARM or whatever. And there's a bunch of stuff that gets handled by that layer that you can't do with K3s as easily. Also, I have the weirdest hate for Ansible, and you can do a lot of the same stuff with Ansible, but I don't know why. I hate it. It just makes me crazy. So I decided to go with Talos, and again, part of it was kicking the tires on something new. I wanted to see what this thing that everybody was talking about kind of was all about. It makes upgrades really, really seamless. Actually, again, not to plug my own articles too much, but I do have a whole other set of articles on upgrading K3s. And what a pain in the butt that was versus doing it with Talos. Whereas Talos, you just say, here's a new machine image, it upgrades, and away you go. So there's a few reasons, but that was kind of the impetus there. Some of it was just testing something new, but I really like the way that Talos puts everything together in this kind of API-driven, very Kubernetes-like experience, just interacting with the operating system. There's security benefits to it. And again, because I'm using Terraform, I can actually, other than actually booting the VM or the bare metal the first time, just using either the ISO or whatever it is, other than that step, everything after that is completely automated with Terraform, which I just couldn't do as easily with K3s. And I've never actually used KOS, but K3s I have done many times. So hope that answers the question.
Yeah, KOS has a similar experience where you can point a YAML file at a bunch of Linux nodes and it'll provision it for you, but you still are responsible for hardening the OS.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, but I think KOS is not compliant in the way that K3s is. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me. But like K3s is often touted as being 100% upstream compliant, whereas I'm not sure the KOS is. If it is, great. That would not be a factor there. But that was something there. Because again, K3s again, when we're looking at installed base, it's production ready. There is a good chance that you may have touched something that I deployed on K3s. So, cool.
And then one shameless plug, you say you don't care about monitoring your single switch, and that's the point where you stop. If you are interested in monitoring your single switch or your many single switches, Mark and I did a tech talk, I think it was last month, or it would have been August, about monitoring your network with VictoriaMetrics. So if that's a gap you want to cover, That'd be a good place
I'd
to
love
start.
to. Honestly, it was just one of those things. Like my network stack is so disjointed. I just haven't gone down that road yet. But yeah, I'd love to. That'd be great.
I keep adding switches to mine to break things and collecting more data.
I sent Mark down the home lab rabbit hole.
In a big way. I have gone off the deep end. I need intervention. So yeah. Awesome.
No, you don't. It's not a problem. It's fine.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Ryan. It was a
Absolutely.
real pleasure having you speak. I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to seeing what else you get up to with VictoriaMetrics and other connected technologies. So thank you
Thanks so
again.
much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Ryan. All right. Well, that was great. So now coming up next, well, first of all, again, just for everybody, thanks to Ryan. We love hearing from our users about why they're looking at us, how they implement it, what the challenges are. So, if you're into sharing your stories, anyone else, we'd love to hear them, and we encourage you to share them publicly. So for some more product updates and continuing on, looks like we're going to speak with Fred.
You are stuck with me, actually.
Oh,
Fred is having some network troubles, so he volunteered me to give the VM anomaly update.
yeah, this felt like the first Thursday or the last Thursday of every month with my buddy Matthias on here. Right on, dude. Let's, you got it up. Perfect. Away you go. You look better in your headshot here than you do in person on the camera, Matt.
Yeah, Fred's a bit more clean shaven than I am. All right. So we're going to go over what happened in Q2, what we accomplished in Q3, and what we have planned for the rest of the year. So where we ended up at is releasing versions 119 through 124. One of the biggest features is horizontal scalability, and the way that's accomplished is it uses a similar mechanism to how VM Agent can horizontally scale, where you can apply the same configuration to multiple instances of VM anomaly and assign them a number and a replication factor. And based on those two things, it will distribute the anomaly jobs to those nodes. So that way you don't have to deal with any coordination or state, but you still get horizontal scaling and redundancy. Another thing that was added was VM anomaly is stateful. So previously, whenever you would restart VM anomaly, it would have to retrain the models. Now VM anomaly can dump those models out to disk. So when you restart VM anomaly, you don't have that retraining process. So that means restarts have a much smaller impact. And then we've also added an anomaly score dashboard. So if you don't want to make a dashboard for your specific use case, we have a generic Grafana dashboard that's available in our Grafana Cloud page. You can download it from there. And then we've also added some new command line arguments for models, mostly profit. So now VM anomaly supports hot reloading as well. So what that means is that VM anomaly will watch for changes in a certain directory for certain file extensions. And then once it sees that new configuration file, it will reload VM anomaly. So that was actually one of the main reasons why we were focused on having the ability to restore state. Because if you're updating a file regularly, having those restarts that would cause models to retrain would be an expensive operation. So those two features kind of work hand in glove together.
Is it possible to make the change without having it auto refresh that? Just, I don't think there's ever a case. I'm just wondering if somebody updates a config file and pushes it in, it's just automatically grabs the config and pushes it, restarts.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
I forget if there's partial restarts. I think Fred might be able to drop into YouTube chat, or we can cover that later.
Yeah, that's just edge case question. Sorry. You know me, I'm trouble.
Another nice thing too is we've added the ability to use environment variables more places. So if you do have like secrets for authenticating to your VictoriaMetrics instance, then those can be defined with environment variables that are easier to deal with. And then forecasting. So we support Facebook's profit model. And now VM Anomaly has the ability to put forecasts from VM Anomaly inside of VictoriaMetrics. And the way that's handled is that the forecasted results will appear in VictoriaMetrics at the current timestamp they were predicted, and then have an extra label to say how far in the future they were. And the reason for that is things, especially around retention, can get weird if you insert samples far into the future. because if you are forecasting out a year and you have a retention of 6 months, you might have accidentally returned your retention period into a much longer period, much longer than what you actually intended to.
Question on that one. Could you dumb that down a little bit for me? Just like, obviously I know what forecasting is, but just, can you, like, where does somebody use that? I'm just trying to put it into how that gets used so I can understand it.
So forecasting would be used for, this is how many resources I'm using now. And especially with profit and with things like auto scaling, you would be able to take that schedule and then forecast it out over a longer period of time. So this month we were using this many resources, and then the profit model, you could give it the 1 month parameter for forecasting, and then it would add in predicted values for that time plus 1 month.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Another nice feature that was added for debugging purposes was you can set the log level per component. So previously, the logging level was set globally. And so if you were having a problem with just the reader or just the model section or just one section of the config, you would have to turn on debug logging for everything, and you would get a bunch of noise spewed out in your logs from the components that are working just fine. Logger levels allow you to adjust that for just one parameter. And the other nice thing with hot reloading, if you're having everything work just fine, you can just add that logger levels parameter to your config file, and then it will change the log level for just that section. So you could just get the debug logs from just that component.
Okay. And it sounds like these all sort of connect, like the hot reload sort of sounds like if you've got flexible logging levels and faster hot reloads, it's all in one theme, right? Or am I drawing dotted lines that don't exist? Like, these all seem to help in one area.
Yes, horizontal scaling and hot reloading was a big push that went through Q2 and Q3. And that was mostly upon client request because they liked VM anomaly, but we're starting to need it to scale out or need high availability more.
Awesome.
And the other reason we wanted to add hot reload, we started working on a user interface for VM anomaly, which I'll be demoing in just a little bit. So now you can use a UI to do all the training. So if you have a very limited data science background like I do, you can test your VM or you can try to detect anomalies using a user interface rather than having to write the YAML file out, have VM anomaly reload, and then train that data.
Mm-hmm.
You can now back test inside of a web GUI that looks just like VM UI and supports all the metrics QL goodness you're used to from VM UI. And another thing we've added support for, and it's also included in the UI, is going to be the VictoriaLogs support for VM anomaly.
Okay. Question on that. So, with the UI on this, would there be like feature parity to the CLI, or is there things that features that somebody might use in a CLI that wouldn't be in the UI?
The one that I know is missing right now, and we're planning on adding it, is HTTP basic authentication for connecting to the VictoriaMetrics or VictoriaLogs data source.
Okay.
So now you can, inside of the config file, you can use HTTP basic authentication or a bearer token to connect to the data source. Currently in the UI, you can only use a bearer token to connect to the data source. Otherwise, I haven't found anything. But I've only messed with median, absolute deviation, and profit. So I'd have to dig in to see if there's something from another model that was missing.
Okay. No, that's awesome. I'm just wondering, yeah, that's great to see if there's almost feature parity, say, for one item right out of the gate. That's a good commitment.
And we also have documentation as well for how to use the UI. And this is in version, these two features both landed in version 1.26, which was just released a couple hours before the stream started.
Awesome.
So I think we can, before we do the demo, I just want to cover what's next. Like I said, there's some features, there's at least one feature missing from VM anomaly. And after we get some more user feedback, we're going to polish the UI experience for VM anomaly. And then the next big thing we want to work on is presets. So that way, if you have some commonly used application like Prometheus node exporter or black box monitoring, which is my hobby horse for VM anomaly, you can just download a pre-configured preset or just say preset is black box monitoring or preset equals node exporter. And then you can use our presets as a starting point for VM anomaly.
Awesome. Yep.
The other thing we want to start working on is integration with the VictoriaMetrics MCP server. So Alex Marshalov is doing some awesome work for getting MCP servers for VictoriaMetrics and VictoriaLogs, and I think VictoriaTraces is out now. And we would like to be able to ask questions of VM anomaly using the VictoriaMetrics MCP server. And then the other thing, Jose might talk a bit more about it, is we want to allow users to deploy VM anomaly inside of VictoriaMetrics Cloud. Currently, if you want to use VM anomaly and host inside of VictoriaMetrics Cloud, you have to manage VM anomaly yourself. So you can use it with VictoriaMetrics Cloud, and we have customers doing that. But we would like the ability to have everything kind of in one place. So you could have VM anomaly running inside of VictoriaMetrics Cloud, and you don't have to manage the VM anomaly tool yourself.
So that sounds like a theme on then what I'm hearing across all the things we're releasing or we have released up to this point is about things are working really well, and that's optimize the user experience to simplify it, give them all the same power and performance, but get rid of some of the rougher bits, right? It's like housekeeping stuff. It's great.
Yeah. And then we also plan on doing more video tutorials. I know we had Fred on, I think it was July. He came on and did a really cool presentation about VM anomalies. So expect more video content and some more how-to guides for getting value out of VM anomalies soon as well.
You hit the presets. What's online models?
Yep. Another thing that we want to work on adding is adding more online models. So some models require retraining on larger sets of data. This is kind of getting outside my wheelhouse. And like I said, I'm kind of covering for Fred.
Yeah.
But I believe we want to add an online version of Prophet. So it behaves similar to Prophet, but can work incrementally rather than having to retrain large sections of the model at the same time.
See, with your accent, Matthias, I think we all have accents. It sounded like you said more on lines. I was thinking that's something made for me. I appreciate it, but yeah, I realized it was just
more online.
Awesome.
And then some performance optimizations are in the works as well.
Okay.
So if you want to get started with VM anomaly, we do have documentation for that. And if you do need a trial license for that, feel free to reach out to us either on our website or reach out to us on our website.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like we're making it VM anomaly easier and easier or more accessible that more people can deploy it and test it, like get a trial of that. It is an enterprise feature, anomaly detection, but it's just, never mind. I'll back up. I forget where I was going. Awesome.
You're good.
Yeah.
Do I have time for a demo for VM anomaly?
Of course you do.
Awesome. Let me find the tab for that. I owned it up. Ryan's talk had a bunch of really cool resources in it, so I got distracted.
Yeah, that was good. He's definitely like passionate about the space and was doing some cool stuff.
All right. So I think I need to zoom in a little bit. Is that legible for everybody?
Probably a little more zoom.
All right.
Yep.
Perfect. So first we're going to go over a logs example. So this is parsing my Suricata logs. Something that we also covered on our network monitoring stream is using Suricata as a NetFlow tool. I'm also going to turn it to light mode. Is that a bit more legible?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So here we're filtering to the Suricata service. We can actually get rid of that host query. And we're just looking at HTTP traffic grabbed by Suricata, and then we're aggregating by the protocol and the host. And then we're checking the bytes to client. So here we can just execute the query. And we can see some spikes here. So we can get a visual representation of these are going to be the anomalies we're trying to detect are here, here, and you can see those bumps. So here we can click on the drop-down model. I'm going to pick median absolute deviation online. And then I need to click the adjustments. One cool thing about VM Anomaly is it's not entirely the ML model doing all the work for you. It is, it also allows you to add some business logic in. So one thing that I like to do a lot is to do either above expected or below expected, because there are certain things like application latency where I haven't run into people who have complained about the application responding too fast. So we could either do things that are below the expected value, above the expected value, or both.
Yep.
So for this one, we'll use both, and then we'll hit validate. Everything's nice. And then we can hit save. And now once we've gone through that, we can either view the config and download it, or we can hit detect anomalies, and then it'll rerun that query, and it uses the backtesting scheduler built into VM Anomaly to detect all of the anomalous points in here as well. And I think if I zoom in, you'll actually see that we get the not only just the, hey, this was an anomalous point where the anomaly score reaches above 1, we would also see the expected values that we would want to see at that time.
That looks handy.
So then when we're happy with this, we can go and grab the configuration. Where is download config at? I was just there. Open config. We can grab just the model, or we can grab the entire configuration as well. And then we're also able to do this with metrics as well. So I can go into settings here, change the data source URL to VictoriaMetrics, change the port. And then if you do need to add authorization, you can put in a bearer token here, and HTTP basic support should be coming soon. Then I can hit apply. Can run the query. I think I forgot to change. We're still in logs mode.
Yep.
So we can get the latency query, and we can use that same median absolute deviation model. And we can also zoom out a bit as well, go over the last couple of days. And then here, again, this is application latency. So we're looking at response time. And if we wanted to get rid of the anomalies that were below the expected value, we would just go into settings, change the detection direction to above expected, validate, save, and then rerun the detection.
Definitely makes it more accessible. Right? Like
Yes.
I think depending on some people are very visual, some aren't, but I think for anybody who's a visual explorer, this could help you just wade through and go, hey, there's something I should pay attention to, or pass off to someone else.
Yeah. And this is the experience before wasn't terrible, but it was more involved, where you were editing the YAML file manually, uploading it and restarting it, or triggering the backtesting scheduler yourself. Now this gives you a tighter iteration loop and a more visual representation of anomalies.
Yeah, I agree. I think the previous version, you had to know how to operate it versus what you wanted to get out of it, right? Like we've sort of taken the tribal knowledge steps and just implemented them, so you get right to getting value out of your detection.
Yeah.
That's
so
good.
now when I want to find anomalies, when my kids complain about things being slow, I don't have to bother Fred anymore. I can just go to VMUI.
You can still bother Fred. He likes it.
I'm not sure. Fred seems pretty busy.
He is very busy, but yeah, I'm glad we had him on for as you say in that July talk to go through and share a bit more about this. So we'll have to be getting more of those. So what else can we show in this, Matthias? Is that
that is
magical?
The extent of it for now. I went down a rabbit hole last night when I was setting up this demo on getting authentication to work.
Oh, you went down an authentication rabbit hole? That's what's broken my stuff, is your rabbit hole, sir.
I've shared my curse with you.
You have it. I'm gladly accepting it. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, that's really great, and that's thanks for sharing that, Matthias, and helping out and stepping in for Fred. As you said, anybody that's interested in it, reach out. You can get a hold of it, have a trial license, and put it through its paces, and just see what this is about. And and anybody who's using VM Anomaly now, definitely grab the UI and see if it's a fit for you.
Yeah. Can I add one more roadmap item?
No, you're done. You're cut off. No, okay, go ahead, Matthias. What do you need?
Somebody was asking, is this available in the playground? And that is something we are going to add in the new version of the playground, along with some of the OTel stuff that Roman was talking about earlier.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like on the playground we do keep adding things and adjusting it. So is there a way for somebody to keep on top of what's new or what's changing in the playground? Because when we put something out like this, how would somebody know if they weren't on this call?
So I'm an old man and still use RSS and read our blog. Okay. That would be the best place to follow us, and I'm sure we'll shout about it on social media. So LinkedIn, and all the rest of the channels we're on.
Yeah, for sure. And for anyone who's not familiar, the playground is where we have all of our software up and running, and it's got data in it, so you can go in and just experiment with it, play with it without having to deploy anything. You can get some real hands-on experience, see if it meets potentially some needs. If you have any questions, it's easier to get a hold of us. So definitely encourage anyone who hasn't played around in the playground to give it a go. All right. And Matthias, I was just about to boot you off and he left. So up next is we have Jose coming in to talk to us about the magic of VictoriaMetrics Cloud. How are you doing, Jose?
Hi, Mark. Doing great.
Yeah, good. Doing good. Always better when I see your smiley face, man. It's awesome.
We missed the part that we talked about the weather, so I just want to say that here I'm in Madrid at 300 Kelvin, because you mentioned a lot of units. I just wanted to say that. Sorry for that.
I'll have to look at that's an anomaly or not.
That's a good one. And thanks Matthias and Fred and Ryan and Roman. It's been great talks. I can't wait to get VM Anomaly in cloud. Yeah, that will come soon. So what have we been doing this quarter in cloud? Time passes very strange, I would say. I was like, what have we done, right? And then I was talking with the team, and they just started, they were telling me, Jose, you have forgot this, and I was like, wasn't that like 5 months ago? No, it was 2 months ago.
That's it, because the pace of change is so heavy. It's easy to forget the great that's come out. Cool.
So that means that we've been busy, right? So that's actually cool. So in case you didn't know about VictoriaMetrics Cloud, you are listening to this, you can just sign up in Console VictoriaMetrics Cloud, and just you will have a free tier for a couple of $100 in free credits for you just to spend to monitor your systems. And you can also read the docs, which we are paying a lot of attention to keep it in a great shape. So as I said, the list is pretty big, and one of the things we announced a couple of months ago in this quarter is that we have a brand new region. So in Asia, we expanded there, and if you're close and you want to send data close to where your code is running, and hopefully not failing, then you can send your monitoring metrics to VictoriaMetrics Cloud very, very close in the Asia Pacific Southeast one region where we just created this new one.
Quick question, Jose. Did this region come up? Was it from usage demand, or how are you determining which areas we should consider for new regions down the road? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question. Yeah, normally we just if you need it, we will open it for you. Of course, if there are always resources to and roadmaps to take into account. So maybe if you would need a threshold big enough deployment, but I can tell you it's not that big what we need. So
Yep.
yeah, if you are listening to this and you need a new region, just ask for it, and yeah, we will try to help. Yeah,
That makes sense.
it.
So yeah, don't let region be a reason that it's not a fit, right? If everything else lines up. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, this is in a blog post, so pass by VictoriaMetrics.com/blog just to take a look. And continuing with AWS stuff, we are end of Q3, beginning of Q4. This means that probably you have some spend commitments that you need to put somewhere. And if you, in AWS, how it works now, since May 1st this year, now you need products that have this 100% built on AWS badge, right? So we have it. So in case you are running anything on AWS and you need to spend those commitments, now it's a good time maybe to take a look in VictoriaMetrics Cloud, and yeah, you can maximize your cloud investments.
Okay, I did not know that they changed that to only 100% built on AWS, because there was a lot of things that your committed spend or burn down could be used previously that aren't available anymore. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, but it's good that we're on the list, right? We're there.
Yeah, I mean, we needed to prepare for that, but the process was kind of fast, and yeah, we are built on AWS exclusively right now, so yeah, it was quick, but
yeah, that's cool.
And related to the product itself, we have been also improving how you can navigate. So now you have these breadcrumbs. Before you needed to go back and check, oh, where are my deployments? Now I change from one to the other. And also at the same time, in the left menu, we make available all the deployment options, like overview settings, access tokens, deployment logs, monitoring, and so forth. So now you have everything there. You don't need to go back and forth. Oh, where were I? Right? In case you are dealing with more than one deployment.
That's great.
So yeah, that's been a great change. And what I like about the change, by the way, is that is preparing for us from what's to come, right? Now we will be adding more and more. I will talk about that later. More functionality, so it makes sense to be more in this modern shape. Like, hey, I navigate in the left. Now I am in this view about metrics or logs very soon, and I will have these options there. So it kind of makes sense now as the product evolves, right? Before you could only just we started by just, hey, this is your deployment, you can manage it. But as we add more and more functionality, this needs to evolve in that way. Yeah. So I'm very happy to see this. It was an effort. This is UI. Sometimes it looks like it's just UI. No, it was effort from the team, and it's
any UI or design that's done really well looks so simple, right? It's when it's not done right is when it looks complex. So it always, I think that's a hard part of UI designers' lives, is that people think, how hard is it until you try, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you know,
I am a backend engineer. That's my past, and you know, now with all this vibe coding, I said, yeah, I will try to make this UI here and there. Oh my God! Yeah, now I respected everyone a lot, but now I respect them even more.
That's right, because I'm sure you put all the right logic into it. It just the layout would not be looking like anybody outside of your mind would get it, right? I know the feeling.
Totally. So and continuing with these improvements, right now we had a couple of bugs that have been fixed. For example, like I remember we were at KubeCon making some demos, and we just realized that the scrolling was not looking good. Like everything was missing if you do it in some ways. Right now that's fixed, so in case you were having that issue, come back and now it will be there. But it's not only about that small bug, it's also like the UI has improved. Now everything is divided in columns, so it's more readable, some color coding. So when we are looking at these deployment logs, right, like, hey, how is my deployment going? Is there anything there that I should watch? Now is more clear to look, right? Also, as you know, you can always filter by date, service, or regex if that's your cup of tea, which is definitely not mine. But So and also we enabled a couple of enterprise features that were not in the tooling section to debug them. Right? We love if we are in the VictoriaMetrics ecosystem, downsampling and retention filters, but sometimes there's a lot of things to know, right? And you need some guidance. In this case, debugging is made available. We took it from, of course, from open source, and now you can just get it. For example, if you are trying to make some downsampling, so you can improve or reduce the amount of data points that you have in the last time, and you don't know how to start. You have some examples to take a look directly in the UI, or you can debug your own retention filters and downsampling, so you can understand, hey, I will be downsampling these metrics earlier than 60 days for 5 minutes and so forth, right? So we believe this is useful. Actually, it was asked by some users, so now it's in the UI.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead and try. And more things. Yeah, I will try to go quick. But yeah, so one of the things, VictoriaMetrics Cloud is what you may call database as a service, right? You deploy your instance, and then it's there. We manage it for you, and you just send your metrics and read from it, right? And then there are different tiers that are for different capacities. So at some point, you may start sending more data. The good part is that we will not charge you overnight more. We have this contract, you and I, and then you deploy this box, and then you pay for that, right? The other part is that if you start sending a lot of load, maybe it will start making throttling or throwing some errors, of course. And we are working to make this better, so you can check these limits that helps. Or if you are surpassing, or if you need to go to a bigger box or a bigger tier, they are available in monitoring, that's for sure. So that means like ingestion rate, active time series, number of new time series over the last 24 hours, and so forth. But now what we are enabled as well is that you will be notified via other system. We are rolling out this right now, and we will monitor. And when you are approaching a limit or reach a limit, then you will get notified if you configure your notifier. So now it's not like, hey, why I'm getting these errors? It's like, hey, you will get errors, right?
Yeah. So Jose, if I'm a user of VictoriaMetrics Cloud and I get this alert that more logs are coming in, we're approaching what that tier limit is, there could be some performance issues coming up. Is that a point where, is there suggestions on how to address that problem, or is that something somebody would click the support button for? What would you do if you got that alert?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, it always depends, right? But here, actually, what I'm showing in the screen, it's one example of the limit of concurrent requests for an access token has been surpassed, right? If you make a lot, then the performance will degrade. So that's why we have this limit. So in this case, we are telling what you should do. In this case, would be going to a higher tier, right? So yeah, it's really up to you. That's the good part of DB as a service, right? You decide what you do with that. We give you the information, and then.
I didn't see the suggested resolutions in there. I think that's awesome, because that way we're giving people a couple of different ways to do it, and again, just do what's best for you. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, totally. No, it was a great point. Yeah, totally. And yeah, so if we talk about other improvements, right? We got notified that there was this issue that in Prometheus 3.0. This issue of passing label names in quotes, and it was fixed in open source, and we just brought it to our version, so it shouldn't be an issue anymore. And we improved the styles for compact screen resolutions. So now if you have one of those, visibility will be better, and enabled log new series API for VM singles that like it helps to identify the source of high churn rates, and yeah, as usual, security improvements and upgrades to avoid vulnerabilities. This happens every other day, right? Just an important update. As I said 3 months ago, now I come back and I said, I told you so. No, we are enabling, just to improve security, we enabled 3 months ago TLS 1.3 everywhere. That means that we will also disable TLS 1 below 2 version. We have noticed that we have near to zero traffic, so we don't expect any issue, but of course, we want to stress this. And yeah, it's kind of an old protocol. So, yeah. So that's it. And as I promised, there was a lot, but there are a lot of things we've been doing in the background that haven't been shared. So what are we working on? One of the things that is pretty important, as I said about these boxes and tiers, right, and is providing a list of boxes that gradually increases is something that is tricky, and we've been putting a lot of effort into improving this experience. And as you know, we dedicate some CPU and memory to these tiers. And what we found out is that maybe the pricing is today not looking very gradual. Like if I go from 1 million active time series and I want to go to 2 million active time series, maybe the jump was too high, but then from 2 to 3 was not that much. So we are trying to fix that part. And we have also, so it will mean, yeah, gradual pricing. Like as you need more and more, then you can understand better how the path looks like. We are also adding more backups that helps. You know, like if something happens and you want your data from a couple of days ago, that now it will be it's available from some months ago. We are also adding in these new tiers that we are creating, right? Gradually, we will be adding the networking costs, which are very low, but sometimes, you know, we are saying, hey, this is transparent pricing, and this is, but in the end, but there is this small network cost that you will need to pay. So now we are just making it.
That's the ingress and egress networking, and then within API networking, is that what's all included?
Yeah, it's external traffic. Yeah. It was certainly less than 10% of the whole price, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you predict that that'll be different between logs and metrics by any chance? Like metrics are a sort of a known quantity where logs are different. Is that?
I don't think so. I cannot think of a difference there, but of course.
Yeah, I'm just out of curiosity. I'm just thinking about our logs for more verbose and just how it'll look. But that's awesome. And I think putting that predictable, scalable, linear thing there, I think it's going to be a lot easier for people to understand what are they getting into. And I think this is another one that just shows our commitment to listening to our users of, hey, we need to make this fit better, and that's what we're doing. So
yeah, totally.
Cool.
And actually on that, this is what it would look like right now. So some of them, the price would be a bit lower. Then for some tiers, it would be a bit higher. But we are also adding more and more capacity to all tiers. This means that they will actually be more robust. That's for sure. And it, of course, it also depends on your retention, right? So for higher retentions, the comparison may have this shape. But you know what? I am spending a lot of time into this, as you may imagine. I was saying, okay, what if we compare to the market? Like what's the price in there, right? And then if you take a look at other public pricing, like you cannot see VictoriaMetrics price because it's.
I saw this slide earlier today, Jose, and I thought, is that broken? Like that's awesome. That's wild comparison.
Yeah. I'm removing this. Just I don't want, but it was just so fun when I saw that. Like, I need to share this. So,
I thought you'd have that on a shirt by now.
yeah, maybe I should. Yeah, I will talk to marketing. So that's one thing we are doing. This will come very soon, and the other thing that we've been working a lot is to make logs available, right? One of the cool things that the team has been working on is providing as you know, in VictoriaMetrics Cloud, we make a lot of effort into making integrations simple. And in this case, for logs, we want to make that. So right now, when we launch, we will have OpenTelemetry, Vector, and FluentBit guides and like holding hand guides, and if you use the Helm chart or the operator and so forth. And of course, all the UI adaptations that you cannot imagine, like, okay, now this is for logs, this is for metrics, this is for everything or not. So we are doing all that work. And what's left, I said what's next, but I should have said what's left, is really, we are just waiting to have incremental backups, and we will add it pretty soon. And realizing all the pricing, and I really want to thank everybody who answered. We were sharing this small survey, like, hey, which are your use cases? Where should we be focusing? And so forth. And based on this, we are making our product. So really, it's great. Thanks everybody for the feedback. And yeah, if you are listening to this and you are interested in some POC with us, let us know, because that's something that is very good for ourselves. So I believe that was it. Again, come by to cloud. We don't bite. We like you with us. So
no, it's awesome. I think it's great. And honestly, I think, in my mind, a natural progression for somebody discovering VictoriaMetrics to be like, okay, well, I'll go poke around in the playground and see if it does what I need it to do, and go, this looks pretty good, but I want to get a little more hands-on. Going into cloud, starting up a trial, and you get hands-on with your own data. And then if it's all working, stay in cloud, move to self-managed. It's like you have that flexibility. So it's a very good way to get through it and experience it, because it does make all of the new features so much more accessible. Again, I say not for our, all the engineers, maybe not, but for everyone else, being able to go in and see what these things do and experience it in a different way, I think is awesome. So your team's been doing a killer job. I mean, the UI in that app, since when I started till now, it is just a fully different thing. It's amazing. So kudos on the good work, team.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're doing a great job.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else you want to say about our friend Cloud? Or yeah. All right. All right, Jose. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That was a great overview. And again, everyone just go out and get hands-on with it. It's a really easy way to experience all the new stuff. So, Jose, thanks so much, and we'll bring up our next speaker. Thank you. All right, man, that was a lot of new stuff that was happening in there. That was really, really quite awesome. So now we have, what is this? Alex. Hey. And Alex, man, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. And my talk is the last one, and I have 10 minutes.
Well, I think we have, isn't there, after you, there's a little bit more on community news as well. So we're pushing on time, so we might run a little bit late, but we always do in these things. So yeah.
I'll try to complete my talk at a very fast pace. Okay, I'll talk about new features in VictoriaLogs, which have been appeared in the last quarter. Probably I did upload incorrect presentation. Wait for a minute, I will upload the correct presentation, because that's presentation from Q2, not Q3.
Sorry. Trying to pull a fast one, are you?
Sorry for this.
Well, that makes it easy to tell what's new when you go back in time, right?
Yes. Sorry for
hey.
all this confusion.
It has to happen to someone, Alex. And is that just because there's so much that's new in VictoriaLogs that loading this presentation has taken a while? Is that the new one up? Can I add it to stage?
Yes, it's
okay. This is it?
Yeah, that's it. That's
perfect.
What new in Q3 this year. Let's start. VictoriaLogs has been migrated from VictoriaMetrics repository to its own repository, because previously VictoriaLogs source code was located in VictoriaMetrics repository. This was needed in order to speed up development of VictoriaLogs, because VictoriaLogs reuses many shared libraries, shared code from VictoriaMetrics. And there was a source of confusion because releases of VictoriaMetrics and VictoriaLogs were published in the VictoriaMetrics repository. They had different schedules, and they had different suffixes per each release, and this introduced a lot of confusion for users when they track these releases. That's why VictoriaLogs has been moved into a dedicated repository, and I encourage you to follow this repository and to track releases in this repository for VictoriaMetrics of VictoriaLogs. Also, we already mentioned multiple times and previously about VictoriaTraces. That's a new product, which is a database for traces. It is based on VictoriaLogs because traces are just contain trace spans, and trace span are just
it's a type of log, really, right?
Just regular structured logs or wide events with a big number of different fields. And VictoriaTraces also located in a separate repository by this link, and I encourage you also following this repository in order to be aware of new releases and new features in VictoriaTraces. And VictoriaTraces is ready for evaluation. It is not yet ready for production, but yeah, you can try using it even in production. And
yeah, that's always got an asterisk by ready for production. Depends how brave you are.
Please report issues, and this will speed up making production ready release for VictoriaTraces. Also, we started adding enterprise features for VictoriaLogs. We introduced enterprise repository for VictoriaLogs, and we have a few features for VictoriaLogs Enterprise, which are related mostly for security. You can automatically issue TLS certificates. You can set up mutual TLS between VictoriaLogs components. And you can set up MTLS between cluster components of VictoriaLogs. And also, if you sign up an enterprise contract with us, you get first-class consulting and technical support from me and from other core developers of VictoriaMetrics and VictoriaLogs. You get monitoring of monitoring, enterprise security compliance, and we also try prioritizing feature requests from enterprise customers. So don't wait, contact ourselves and sign enterprise contracts. The next interesting project which has been appeared during the last quarter is VM Agent. This is an agent similar to VM Agent in VictoriaMetrics. It is designed for collecting logs, for accepting logs over all the supported protocols for which supported by VictoriaLogs itself. It is designed for transformation of these logs, buffering these logs if remote storage is unavailable, and replicating these logs across the configured remote storages. And in this case, remote storages are obviously VictoriaLogs instances or VictoriaLogs clusters. Currently, Veil Agent supports logs collection, accepting logs and replication, buffering logs and replication logs across different VictoriaLogs instances. And we are working actively on two things. The first thing is automatic discovery and collection of logs in Kubernetes. So you could install this Veil Agent as a daemon set in Kubernetes and automatically discover and collect all the logs from Kubernetes containers. And the second feature which we are working actively is ability to transform these collected logs before sending them to particular remote storage. This transformation can be performed independently per each remote storage, like in the VictoriaMetrics case.
So that would be if we need to do any enrichment or normalization of the log files, it gets done before getting thrown into the VictoriaLogs server. Okay. Now, does the VL agent, is that sitting between, or is it replacing, like when Jose was showing the new ingestion things they're looking for VictoriaLogs in cloud, there was Fluent and a few other ones, is the open telemetry agent. Does VL agent then work with those, or is VL agent going to supersede a lot of those or do what they do?
As I know, VL agent is already used in VictoriaLogs cloud. It is used for accepting logs from external clients and for replicating these logs internally across different VictoriaLogs instances for HA purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. And VL Agent can accept logs from any log collectors, from external log collectors, including OpenTelemetry collector.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
And you can read documentation about VL Agent by this link. And let's look at the prominent features which have been added during the last quarter. The first feature is the ability to perform prefix-based processing of log fields in bulk mode in LogSQL pipes. That sounds complicated. Let's show some examples. For example, you can now delete log fields which start with some prefix. For example, this example shows how to delete log fields which start with Kubernetes node labels prefix. And you can delete this with this LogSQL pipe. And you don't need to enumerate all these labels because probably you do not know all these labels because these node labels are generated automatically. And previously, you had no ability to remove all these labels via delete pipe, and now you can delete this. Another example is opposite. When you want to keep only some labels with some prefixes and delete the rest of the labels, you can use this fields pipe for this and put this label prefix and put the star at the end of this label prefix, and VictoriaLogs will delete all the logs, all the fields, log fields, except all the log fields enumerated in fields with this prefix. The next example is the ability to drop prefix from some log fields. For example, you can use this rename pipe, which drops Kubernetes node labels prefix from log fields with this prefix, while keeping the rest of log fields intact. You can also replace one prefix for a bulk of log fields with another prefix, like in this example. And you can add prefix to all the log fields just put a star as a source for labels and put some other prefix as a destination for labels. And you can copy fields with some prefix to fields with another prefix with a copy pipe. All this functionality is very powerful when you have logs with big number of log fields, such as wide events or logs collected from Kubernetes, because such logs usually contain a big number of log fields, and these log fields can be dynamically generated, and you can have no ability to know all this the sets of these fields. So such prefix-based processing of these log fields helps very much.
Yeah. Now, is that a feature that we've seen in not other logging solutions, but in other solutions where that problem is being addressed like this? It seems like it's a big problem, and this is a pretty neat way to address it. I've never seen it. I'm just not sure if it's a unique approach overall.
I don't know. I can tell how this feature has been appeared from my own experience, because when we started collecting Kubernetes logs internally with VictoriaLogs into VictoriaLogs, I stumbled with this problem with big number of labels with some common shared prefixes from Kubernetes, and I had no ability to properly process, properly remove, rename, or drop such labels with some shared common prefixes. That's why this feature has been appeared. And this feature will be very useful for VL agent for logs transformation. When you accept some logs and want to drop or replace.
Oh yeah, or remap any of those, like rechange them. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing the genesis of where a feature came from, right? Like it just sort of puts you in the mindset of you toiling with that and going, wait, this can help others. So cool.
Yeah, and also this prefix-based feature is available in other log scale pipes and other functions. For example, you can use it in unpacked JSON pipe, which unpacks the specified fields from JSON string. And by default, it unpacks all the fields from the JSON string, but you can enumerate the particular interesting fields which you need to unpack from JSON string. And previously, you could only enumerate exact fields in this braces, and now you can use this prefix for extracting only log fields with this prefix. And you can also mix this prefix-based fields with exact fields in the same query. This also can be applied to unpack log-fmt pipe, which unpacks parses log-fmt strings. And also prefix-based selection can be used in stats functions, in the majority of stats functions. And here are a few examples. The first example is, for example, you want to calculate some average over not only over a single log field, but over a series of log fields with common prefix, such as score, for example. And it is possible now. You don't need to enumerate all these log field names in average. You can use this prefix-based filtering. And another example is that you can use this prefix-based filtering for returning back log fields with a minimum timestamp per each host, for example. Via this row-min stats function. And as I said, these are just a few examples, and VictoriaLogs stats pipe supports a big number of different useful functions, and the majority of these functions support this prefix-based filtering for logs, specifying of log fields. Other series of good improvements in VictoriaLogs in are related to syslog data ingestion. VictoriaLogs supports accepts logs via syslog protocol over TCP, UDP, and other transports. I will show you this transport later. And VictoriaLogs gained the following new features for syslog data ingestion. The first feature is automatic addition of level field according to the severity field value. This feature enables log level highlighting in Grafana. When you use Grafana for querying logs, you can get this red lines for errors and green lines for info, for example. And it works automatically now. The next interesting feature is the automatic parsing of CEF encoded messages. I didn't remember how this abbreviation is decoded. Come on. But this encoding is used in security-related systems such as CM systems and VictoriaLogs now automatically parses all this structure, all this Ceph-encoded messages into separate log fields, and this simplifies first analysis of such logs, and this also improves compression of these logs because individual log fields compressed usually at much higher compression rate compared to plain text messages with some encoding.
Yeah, and I noticed you called out there it's frequently used in SIM solutions, right? So is that something we're seeing is because our logging is very effective, it's fast, it's low on space, and that's what SIEMs just collect a lot of that, and that becomes the burden for a lot of them. Are we seeing more people like testing, like could VictoriaMetrics be the source of logs for SIEM systems, or is that outside of what we know yet?
Yeah. VictoriaLogs should fit very well for CM systems as a storage for CM systems. It's a very efficient storage with very efficient querying and analysis of the ingested logs.
Yeah, I can see where the querying would be helpful when you're looking across 1 billion records trying to search for this item. It's where everything was slow in the past, and my SIEM world was searching, querying was always the pain. Storing data was fine, but this means that we can store it effectively and somebody could search it and get fast results, fast and accurate, which is cool. Okay.
The next useful feature is the ability to automatically add a remote IP field into parsed logs. And this remote IP field will contain the remote address of the client who sends logs to VictoriaLogs over syslog protocol. This has some applications when the source of the clients who send these logs to VictoriaLogs do not provide this information, the source of logs information inside labels. So you can use this remote IP address instead and store it automatically into log field. The next important feature is support for high precision timestamps. By default, the classic syslog protocol. There are two classic syslog protocols, and both protocols support timestamps only with seconds precision or with milliseconds precision, as I remember. And there is an extension which supports timestamps with nanosecond precision, up to nanosecond precision. And VictoriaLogs transparently supports all these variations of syslog protocols. You don't need to configure anything. Another feature is support for another dialect of syslog for FreeBSD. It also is supported automatically. You don't need to configure anything. Just ingest FreeBSD logs, FreeBSD-based logs, syslog logs into VictoriaLogs. And what we mentioned before, VictoriaLogs supports 3 transports for syslog logs. This is TCP, UDP, and now it supports accepting logs over Unix sockets. This also is used sometimes for syslog logging. And we have a few improvements for journal D data ingestion. The first improvement is that VictoriaLogs gains support for accepting very large amounts of journal D logs in a streaming manner, because previously it tried reading all these logs in memory from client, and then parsed these logs and stored these logs. And if the size of these logs which client sends was very big.
Question for you on that, Alex. When you say very large, I think very large is relative. Like in my idea of a very large log file here is probably laughable. So can you give an idea of what very large might mean from a size perspective?
I assume that the size of the very large size is the size which doesn't fit available memory where VictoriaLogs runs.
Okay.
If VictoriaLogs runs on a system with 10 gigabytes of memory, for example, then the size, the data size comparable to.
Okay. No,
it's very large.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah, and currently VictoriaLogs supports data ingestion for journal D with arbitrary large payloads.
Okay.
And also we add automatic assignment of these three labels as a log stream fields for journal D. This simplifies using the journal D protocol, because in most cases you do not need to think about this log streams, which log fields to use for these log streams, because these three fields, which are default for journal D, are okay for most cases for log stream usage. And we have numerous web UI improvements for VictoriaLogs. The first improvement is that currently VictoriaLogs web UI shows timestamps for logs with nanosecond precision, because VictoriaLogs stores logs with nanosecond precision, and previously web UI was showing these timestamps with millisecond precision. And this had two issues. So the first issue is that you lose this precision, and the second issue is that this could result in incorrect sorting order of these logs in web UI, because if they have the same milliseconds but different nanoseconds, the order of logs could be different, could be incorrect. And now this is fixed. Another improvement is the ability to investigate the surrounding logs for the given log. We now have this show context button for each log. You can click on it, and then you will see the particular log, and you will see the previous logs and the next logs in the log stream where this log is located.
That's cool. Yeah, it helps you figure out where to start digging, right? It takes you to the right place.
Yes, and you can click this arbitrary number of logs, previous logs and the next logs, by clicking this lot new or older logs buttons on this UI. The next improvement, very good improvement, quality of life, is currently Victoria Web UI shows this query execution times, and these query execution times are sent by the VictoriaLogs server. They are measured by VictoriaLogs server, and they do not include the latencies between Web UI and VictoriaLogs server. So that's exact numbers.
So yeah, you're getting the real deal. You're not getting that and then whatever the latency was on top of it, right?
Yeah, and this feature might look very small, but this is a very useful feature. I remember when I added this feature for VictoriaMetrics UI, Web UI, it was also very easy to add, but it had very great impact because users liked it very much and use it very much. It helps understanding the query performance without measuring this query performance with some watches. You can just look at these numbers and understand how to optimize this, whether the query performance is good or bad, and optimize it. Another improvement is optimization for JSON tab. Previously, this JSON tab was not optimized, and it was starting work slowly when after you started showing more than hundreds of logs there. And this screenshot shows you that JSON tab can display 10,000 of logs, and every log contains big number of log fields. So the number of lines in the JSON tab is very big, and it now works without issues. And
well, now people push the envelope and try to get 20,000 in and go, why doesn't it do 20,000?
I don't know. Actually, we have a bug report when users say that if they set the limit for the number of returned logs to high values, such as 10,000, for example, then this usually breaks the web browser, crashes it. And
well, as long as they're logging their crashes on their browser to another logging system, it's all okay. It's meta logging.
Yeah, and we have a solution for this, actually. The solution is that if users want obtaining bigger number of logs, then the browser can process and display. In this case, it is likely that the users want to download all the logs for the given query on the given time range. And VictoriaLogs is perfectly capable for doing this. It can return all these billions of logs for the given query on the given time range in a streaming manner without using a big number of memory and CPU at the server side. The only thing is that we should not process these logs at the browser. We need to proxy this log directly to file at the user's machine.
Didn't somebody once say the browser is your computer? Now it is. So there's a question. A question actually came up here, Alex. Somebody says, just curious, is there an ETA for adding S3 support for VictoriaLogs and VictoriaMetrics?
No, let's return. Let's cover this question later. I will cover it later.
Okay.
Because I have slides for this question. Okay, and the solution for this problem is that we are going to add this download button. We already have this download button, but it works in an unexpected way. It returns just logs which are displayed in the web browser. And we are going to change this behavior. When users click this download button, then Web UI will start initiate the downloading of all the logs, selected logs on the given time range, even if there are billions of such logs. And it will just proxy this logs into file for further analysis. Okay, and we also have this VictoriaLogs plugin for Grafana, and we have numerous improvements in this plugin over last quarter. And I recommend you following this playground link. You can we will share this slides later, and you can click this link or just search this link in Google and investigate these improvements in this plugin. Also, we have improvements for Kubernetes integration. The first improvement is that we added VictoriaLogs collector Helm chart, which is supposed for collecting logs in Kubernetes containers and sending them to VictoriaLogs. It simplifies this process. currently this VictoriaLogs collector is based, that's very secret information, it is based on vector, but we do not expose this information in our documentation because we are going to replace this vector with VLAgent in the future, when VLAgent will gain ability to discover these containers in Kubernetes and collect logs from these containers. That's why we we don't want to expose this information that this collector is based on vector. And please,
it's going to be changed out. Yeah.
Do not rely on this because it's a temporary solution. And also, we significantly improved and clarified documentation for Helm charts, which deploy VictoriaLogs single node version and VictoriaLogs cluster version. So I recommend you reading this documentation and try following it. And if you see some issues with the documentation, then please file bug reports or notify us via other channels. We have numerous DevOps improvements for VictoriaLogs, which simplify lives of DevOps operators who manage VictoriaLogs instances. The first improvement is significantly increased scalability for data ingestion on systems with hundreds of CPU cores. We see the data ingestion performance increases by 5 times and even more. Another improvement is ability to return partial responses from VictoriaLogs cluster when some of the storage nodes are unavailable, because by default VictoriaLogs cluster returns an error when some of storage node is unavailable in order to prevent from incorrect results. Because if some storage node is unavailable, this means that results can be partial. And that's not this can break alerting rules, recording rules, metrics generated from such logs, and so on. That's why this partial response is disabled by default. But now you can enable it if your use case requires this.
Question for you on that one, Alex. If I enable partial response and 99% of the time I'm getting full responses because they're all online, when one becomes unavailable and I get a partial response, is that partial response flagged to identify that it was a partial and not a full response, so that if I see an anomaly in the result sets that I can go, oh yeah, that's because I had a partial in here?
We have a feature request. Currently, it is impossible to detect whether the response is partial or not. But
yeah, I guess it makes sense.
For adding this information, and this information will be reported in response headers.
Yeah, that makes sense. But a partial response would be a lot better. Like partial response data going into your analytics would be better than no data going into analytics, right? Like you'll be closer to truth with that. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, there are valid use cases for this feature. That's why it has been added. Okay. Also, we added an ability to set retention based on the percentage of disk space usage. That's also quality of life improvement for operations. You don't need to calculate the exact numbers of gigabytes of retention. You can use this percentage.
That's a huge helping housekeeping improvement. That's it's a big one.
Another improvement is the ability to dynamically attach and detach per day partitions without VictoriaLogs restart. It can be used for building multi-tier storage schemes when recently ingested logs are stored on a faster storage, and all the logs are migrated to slower storage, less expensive storage. And this feature simplifies implementation of such multi-tier storage. You can implement it with a simple cron job which runs once per day and moves this per day partitions, all the per day partitions from hot storage to cold storage.
Yeah, and I can see this would be super helpful when somebody's got regulatory compliance reasons why they have to store logs for a longer period of time. And after 60 days, no one's ever going to look at them. So if it makes it easy to just prune them, push them off to spinning disk somewhere that won't ever spin, save you money and performance. Cool.
Yeah. And we also added an ability to make snapshots for individually each per day partition. And then you can use these snapshots for backups. That's obvious use case, but you can use the snapshots for any things you want. For example, you can copy the snapshots into some dedicated VictoriaLogs instances or clusters, and then investigate this snapshots without affecting the live production cluster or VictoriaLogs instance. And we also significantly improved the usefulness of Grafana dashboards for VictoriaLogs components, for VictoriaLogs single node, cluster version, and VL agent. I recommend you upgrading these dashboards if you run previous versions of dashboards. This was the DevOps improvements, and we also have improvements for
You weren't kidding when you said you had a lot of stuff to cover. It's awesome.
No, sorry for this.
No, it's good.
Okay. We made the log scale parser more strict because we saw that users frequently use improper queries. They previously such queries were happily accepted by a log scale parser, but these queries were obviously incorrect, and they were returning incorrect results. And now such most typical incorrect queries, filters are rejected by log scale parser and error returned to the user, so user could fix such queries. This here is one example. When you search for logs with some value in the given field, please use the second form and do not use the first form, because the first form doesn't. It was working, but it did not what you assumed.
Okay. Can that also impact performance as well? If you've got a couple of people that are writing just poorly structured bad queries and LogsQL is parsing them, if this will help them put properly formatted queries in, I assume it would be a performance win for somebody that doesn't have to suffer for others' bad queries.
Yes, that's correct. And also, if you upgrade VictoriaLogs and see broken queries, there are close to 100% chances that these queries were incorrect, and you need to fix them according to the error message returned by VictoriaLogs.
Cool.
Another feature is support for executing queries with the given offset, like in VictoriaMetrics or Prometheus. If you was using this offset or modifier in Prometheus or VictoriaMetrics, you are familiar with this feature, and we added similar feature to LogScale. And this simplifies comparing graphs, for example, or some stats between this same length time ranges, but different offsets on the same graph, on the same dashboard. Also, we added query stats pipe. It analyzes query execution statistics, collects query execution statistics, such as the statistics is different, is very detailed, and you can read about it by this link later. And this query stats pipe helps identifying problems, performance problems with the query, and helps understanding how this query can be optimized. Also, we added the split pipe, which splits the given log fields into arrays by the given delimiter. This is useful, for example, for processing and working with CSV or with some other separated, delimited formats. We also have the run stats and total stats pipe, which are useful for calculating running sums and percentage of total sum per each interval on the selected time range. These stats pipes are useful for building graphs which grow over time, for example, or show you a percentage of every value at every time interval compared to the whole selected time range. And also we added support for sorting of values selected by just JSON value stats pipe. This is useful for selecting the last logs with per each specified group. For example, you can select the last 10 logs per each host if you collect web statistics logs with this feature. We also added support for substring filter, which is faster and easy to use compared to regex filter. You don't need to escape, for example, dots, because previously you could use regex filter instead of substring filter, but in this case you need to escape all the special characters in this regex. And if you didn't escape this special character such as dot, then this regex could return unexpected results, and it also was slower compared to substring filter. We also added pattern match filter, which is useful for searching logs with some patterns, and we also added K equals common case and contains common case. That's not pipes, that's filters. This is a fast alternative for case insensitive filter, because when you use case insensitive filter, it cannot use Bloom filters, cannot take advantage of Bloom filter performance optimization, and it is recommended to using these new filters when you search for strings in different cases, uppercase and lowercase. And the roadmap, we are returning back to the object storage, to the question from the user. We are working on this object storage, and we have two phases. The first phase is transparent to store, continue storing newly ingested logs into local storage, and transparently migrating all the logs to object storage, and transparently querying all these logs from local storage and from object storage. This helps reducing costs for historical data, storage costs, because this data is migrated to object storage, and this also automates backups for historical data. You don't need to run additional backup routine. Backups are made automatically into object storage. And the second phase is to get rid of local storage and write newly ingested logs directly to object storage. And this phase has some issues.
Quick question on that one. What would a potential use case for that be? Where is it a log that I need to store, but I'm not going to be looking at, that I just turf it into object storage, or how would that be used?
The use case, which I frequently hear from our users, is they want make the VictoriaLogs stateless, VictoriaLogs process stateless.
Okay.
And this means that you can run this VictoriaLogs process in Kubernetes without persistent volumes, and store all the logs directly into object storage. And in this case, this pod, VictoriaLogs pod, can be restarted without losing any data. That's the use case. But actually, this use case is not so good, because persistent volumes are also not directly coupled with Kubernetes nodes. And if you restart Kubernetes pod, this persistent volume is usually automatically attached to the new node if this pod is migrated to new node. So you also get this property which users ask, but users want object storage and want to get rid of local storage. And that's why we need this second phase. And this phase has an issue that when you the majority of queries are performed against recently ingested logs. And if these recently ingested logs are stored locally on local storage, the local storage usually has very fast response times, very low latencies for reading this data, and that's why everything works fast. And if you skip local storage and store everything to object storage, then query performance for typical queries might be very slow, because object storage usually has up to 1,000 times higher latencies, read latencies. I'm talking about fractions of milliseconds compared to hundreds of milliseconds in object storage and fractions of milliseconds in local storage. And this can slow down the average query significantly by thousands of times, and we need some solution, and the solution is to increase the number of parallel data readers, which will mask this high latency of object storage. And VictoriaLogs already supports this via parallel reader options, parallel readers options, and this we are going to use this option automatically, increase this the number of parallel readers automatically when reading the data from object storage, in order to mask this high latency and increase query performance. And regarding when the object storage are going to be added in VictoriaLogs and VictoriaMetrics, we have no deadlines, hard deadlines, but we try hard to release this support of object storage both phases until the end of this year. And after that, if everything will be good, then we will add support for object storage at VictoriaMetrics, because VictoriaMetrics has the same storage architecture, and it will be not too hard to add object storage support to VictoriaMetrics after we add support for VictoriaLogs.
So I think up until this year, probably the most common question people asked of you is, when is cluster coming? When is cluster coming? That's been answered. Now it's moved to, when is object storage, right? Is that is the question you get now?
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And I recommend you don't wait for object storage, and instead of this, try VictoriaLogs on local file system now, because local file system has 1,000 times less latency compared to object storage, and also local storage isn't built for every request to this object storage, contrary to S3 or Google Cloud Storage. Users usually said that object storage is very cheap compared to a local file system or persistent volume, but they usually forget that object storage usually has a price for every operation. When you issue any read operation or write operation to object storage, then you are billed for this operation.
Yeah, it's almost, they shouldn't be like, it's almost best to move backups to, right? Back up those things and put them in object storage, because querying from it can be painfully slow, but it makes sense if you're putting stuff out there. Again, if you're separating that, you've got like tiered storage where I have my local storage for my current fast data that people are going to query. I have some warm storage for stuff you might query, but punt off that stuff to the S3 bucket that nobody's going to query. But it sounds like you're saying earlier that there are systems where people are going to want to write only to object storage and no local, which, that will be a performance hit if their app is looking for reads over, looking for reads over just writing, right?
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Okay.
By the way, that's the last slide, so I'm finished.
What? Well, awesome. Well, thanks, Alex. And we are obviously running long, but that's good because it means there's so much content that we're sharing. So I think, I don't know if anyone's going to watch this from start to end. If you do, you're a marathoner and we love it, but we're probably going to be able to create some timelines in this so people that want to know about cloud have a timestamp. People that want to go to logs have the timestamp. So thank you for sharing all this information. It's amazing what the team is putting out so fast. So looking forward to more. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I think my screen is gone. I haven't moved my mouse in a while. I'm off. Here I am. Okay, so now for last but not least, we have our team coming in for community with the community updates. We've got Denise, Deanna, and JJ. Thank you guys for sticking around. I hope you have all sorts of exciting updates too, and I know you do. Take it away.
Sure, we do. Yeah. So today we will talk a bit and cover some cool news from the community perspective. Especially, I pleasure to welcome Diana. Diana has joined us as a developer advocate not so long. And Diana, your floor.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here, by the way. As you well mentioned, I joined as a developer advocate, actually not 2 months. 2 months ago. It's been like forever. Time flies. A bit about myself. I'm an observability engineer. I've been in engineering actually for 15, 16 years. And since last year, I joined open source. I'm a member of OpenTelemetry, CNCF project, and I really love it. I'm going to lots of conferences, cloud native conferences, speaking about OpenTelemetry, and being in the observability ecosystem. Obviously, I knew VictoriaMetrics, so I was really happy joining as developer advocate. What I'm doing here at the moment is I'm trying to empower developers to adopt, integrate, and succeed with VictoriaMetrics, which is actually, it goes without saying, like seeing the amounts of new features we are producing and improvements. But yeah, it's some. So this is the main priority at the moment. So if we can go to the next slide, I will show you what we've been doing so far. So I really like, from my perspective, this motto, by engineers for engineers. I'm an engineer and I know how it feels to go on stage, be at an event and explain some technical features to engineers. It's really nice to have that, I'm going to say, click with the audience, explain and share the features, do the demos, and listen to the community replying back. So this is actually where I get my superpowers. My energy is hearing the users, the community, giving us feedback. So listening to our community is our main priority, and I always thrive from it. So if you are definitely at a meetup or an event and you hear about VictoriaMetrics and you hear us giving a talk, please share your user stories. This is something that we always keep in mind to be able to improve our products. And not least, if we can go to the next slide. As we can see, we really like empowering the communities. So especially we have a deep bonds with the open source community. Obviously, VictoriaMetrics, this core is open source, and it is where our community thrives from. We maintain a very active relationship with open source. We get constant questions, constant asks, constant feedback. We are always, let's say, twinkering with some new idea, creating a new project, developing something new. Like you've seen VictoriaTraces, there are loads and loads of other features that are currently under development. So we definitely listen. We definitely listen, and we want to amplify our community voice, right? So, for example, if somebody wants to know about the feature or wants to learn more how VictoriaMetrics can help build something, we definitely listen. And what I really like is that the community is so transparent. They always come to us. They ask a question or they want to learn something, and we get a very fluid, natural dialogue. And this is why what I love about VictoriaMetrics is very down to earth. The communication is really flowing and always goes like without intermediaries. So what we are doing at the moment is we are focusing more on content, like the content that developers feel that is missing or they want to hear more about. So if you definitely have something that you want to see like published or a talk or even some video content, please let us know. Even those, let's say, scenarios that are more complex or you want to go deep dive into it, please ping us and let us know. I'm always happy to hear those stories. So obviously, we are here to listen. And yeah, I think that's it from my side.
Cool. Deanna, one question I have on here real quick. Well, two. One is, yeah, you might have been here for a short time, but man, you've been all over doing so many talks. It's awesome how much you've got, how much you're getting the word out in a short order of time. So just wanted to bring that up. And secondly is, you're talking about people sharing their stories. Like we came across, Ryan's story and he came in and shared it. Is there a way for other people that are talking about VictoriaMetrics or using it where they can reach out to us to also share if and where they're sharing information about what they're doing with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our VictoriaMetrics public Slack channel where you can join. We have different community channels and different feature channels. That's where where we get most feedback from, but we are all over the place. So all the social media accounts, the main ones that you heard about, we are all over. So it doesn't matter if you're I don't know, LinkedIn or Mastodon, you can ping us and give us your story. And definitely if you want to have more in-depth conversation like Ryan did today, is definitely something that we want to do because it's about your story, something that is 100% your scenario that you lived through, and is that voice, that unique voice that we want to empower.
Yep, cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay then. So now you will see our 3-person in marketing community team from VictoriaMetrics. Nice to see you here, Diana. And a few words about some short stats for the latest Q3. So we now achieve more than 1 billion downloads for all of VictoriaMetrics products, include VictoriaMetrics Operator, VMagent, VictoriaLogs, VictoriaMetrics, and VictoriaTraces. So this is huge, and we keeps growing. We got Thanks, Mark. We achieve more than 4,000 users in our Slack, and there are more and more in our other communities. In Telegram, for example, we have 3 communities there, and there is more and more contributors that are joined to VictoriaMetrics GitHub organization or send APRs or just send us bug reports. So thank you, folks, and keep calm. We can do more to make VictoriaMetrics products better. And not so long ago, the VictoriaMetrics repository surpassed 15,000 of users, more than 1,000 just from the latest quarter meetup. So it's in 3 months, I think. And
Awesome.
yes, we can do more. Yeah. So GJ.
Yeah. Thanks, Denise. These are all really cool stats to see, and thanks, Diana, also. So one of the events we were just at recently was in Berlin, where we were hosted by Deutsche Bank for the second time. They do meetups on a regular basis, tech meetups in their technology center. And so we wanted to thank the team there again for hosting us. We did a talk there on VictoriaLogs, for example, and there was a presentation by the Deutsche Bank team on how they use VictoriaMetrics, which was also very well received. So if you go to our community website, which Denise is going to point you to later, we have a number of different cities where we have meetups set up. If you want to run a meetup in your city and you don't see it there, let us know. We'd love to organize more of those meetups as we progress and as we go along. Speaking of tech talks, so Mark, who's been hosting us today, and thanks for doing this, Mark, is also hosting a monthly tech talk with Matthias, who you saw and heard earlier. So we wanted to point you to some of the recent ones. You started a new series on platform as a service. The first one was, I think, last week, and there's going to be monthly platform as a service tech talks coming up over the next few months. So please join those as well here on the YouTube channel, and we'll be providing information as we announce the dates for them and so on. In 2 weeks or 3, no, 2 weeks, yeah, we'll be in Paris for a meetup also at Criteo, which is also the second time we're being hosted there by Criteo. So already thank you in advance for that. Looking forward to being there. And Alexander will present there, Diana will present there. We'll talk about VictoriaLogs, different topics on monitoring. Criteo will do a presentation. So it'd be great to, if you're in France or in Paris, of course, it'd be great to see you there. So that's on the 15th of October. The week after that will be in Munich at PromCon Europe, where we are a sponsor. It's one of our favorite conferences to go to, PromCon. We were at the Berlin one previously, which we just really enjoyed, really good conversations, great people. So we're looking forward to the one in Munich. That's on the 21st and 22nd of October. And again, the team of us there, Alexander, Roman, Artem. So we look forward to seeing you in Munich. If you can make it there, that'd be great. Right, and then we'll finish the year almost in November in Atlanta at KubeCon, which we're also really looking forward to. So we've been at the European KubeCon in London. We'll be in Atlanta now in November. We're also participating in the Observability Day that's part of the KubeCon week for the first time. We're really looking forward to that. So we'll have a table there. So please do come talk to us on the Monday, and then of course in the exhibition hall at KubeCon for the rest of the week. Looking forward to seeing you there and talking to you. If you have ideas of what to do on site, let us know. We'd love to maybe get together with some of you if we can. So, do contact us, and we'd love to talk about that. So that's mid-November. And as Mark mentioned, Diana and others have really quite busy and productive on the talks front. I think we've never done as many talks as we've done, and we will do this year, which is amazing. And you can see them here. We're going to be in Austria, in Poland, we're going to be in Denmark, we're going to be in Germany, with different talks, different topics, which you can find the links to here. And those are just some of the dates. Denise published a blog post just recently, which gives you all of the talks, conferences, meetups we're going to be at. So you have the link to it here, so feel free to check the dates out there. So, and entirely different topic, but we wanted to point you to this blog post, which is the first in a series of posts we're going to publish. And this is where we talk about our open source business model, and which we could do a whole session on, but I wanted to give you just a brief overview of it here. this is our take on open source, on how to run a business with open source and on top of open source. It's also where we explain that we don't just develop open source software. We also operate by open source principles. Our company is run in a very open way, in a very open source kind of way. And so we describe all of this in that blog post. And we'll follow it up with a second post, where we'll discuss what we are doing and what we plan to do on our way to becoming a standard in the open source observability space. So have a read of it, let us know what you think. We'd love to discuss, of course, and but it's really our way of running VictoriaMetrics and putting it out there for everyone to see and also maybe to use something from. There isn't one way to do open source. There's plenty of different ways to do it. This is one of them. So you have the link to the blog post here. Right, and then so we've also been very busy producing a whole range of content pieces. The first one here, I know we mentioned it earlier in the call, but it's a blog post that summarizes the current state of our RTS releases for the first half of this year and also looking into the next half, the current ones. And this is relevant to enterprise customers, of course, of VictoriaMetrics, but it's also a good reminder for our open source users to always upgrade to the latest version, because that's where you get all of the features that and improvements that go into the RTS releases. So it's it works for both open source and enterprise. That's what I'm trying to say. And then we've covered a range of different topics around full stack observability, for example, that Diana wrote about in the Open Telemetry demo. There's the alerting best practices by Roman, which was really well received and good to read through. And you can see the other topics here. So do check it out and check our blog section, of course, anytime. And with that, I'll hand back to you, Denise.
Yes, thank you, DJ. So yeah, we are pleasure to introduce the community website at VictoriaMetrics.community address. So what is it and what is for? We plan to collect all of VictoriaMetrics and other repositories that are familiar or use VictoriaMetrics in their projects, maybe some demos, home labs, and other cool stuff. So we added especially a website for such needs. And also there we add some, you can see and follow us and keep your eyes on meetups, conferences, tech talks as example. So you can be in the same line with us to give a chance to join us on some conferences and talk with us, for example, with Diana, and be ready to see more other cool stuff there. For example, we plans to add some interesting news maybe next 2 weeks. We will share this in our special community channel in our public Slack. So please join us there and share your experience, ask questions, and we're always welcome to see you there and help you to join our cool open source world. Yeah. So, and I think this is the last slide, and you can follow us in, as I said, in VictoriaMetrics community website, and we have also some links on the main website. And I think that is all for today.
Cool. Well, thank you all for sharing that as well. Here, let's. I think we add everybody back to the stage here so we can have a wrap up. I don't know if anybody's clicking any other faces that I don't see in here. I don't know if everybody stuck around for this long, but here's the ones who made it to the end. We're the marathon winners. We'll all get badges and a medal. So everyone, thanks so much. I know this, we did run, we're only an hour and 2 minutes longer than we expected, but I really think there was so much good stuff covered by each of our teams that it would have been a disservice to make it shorter. So thank you all. Any closing remarks or thoughts from anyone on the team who's still here?
We
just
did miss.
basically, I mean, the events that we listed earlier is just a snapshot of where we're going to be. If you want to get a full list, please go to this blog post we shared, because there's many more. We're going to be at the open source monitoring conference in Germany in November. There's KCD Porto. There's a whole range of events. So we only listed a few of them because there was just too many. So do check out the blog post that Denise published, because it's got all of them in there. And of course, we look forward to seeing you at any of those events and opportunities to talk to you. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, and a question just came in from on YouTube. Alex, have you finished object storage and logs yet? You mentioned you would get it done soon.
No.
Just kidding. All right. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you all so much. It was really great. And as everyone had said, community is our huge driver. That's where we get our ideas, what to build, how to make things better. We love working with the community. And so, yeah, take advantage of it. Connect with us on all of the different resources that were shown. And we look forward to seeing everybody at the next available space, which could be anywhere near you soon. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.
See you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Okay.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
And